into the new place. I'll now join forces.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting from Monday, July 25th, 2016. Mr. Carr, would you lead us in the pledge of the flag?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Please be advised that in accordance with the presidential proclamation issued today as a mark of respect for the victims of the attack on police officers perpetrated on Sunday, July 17th, 2016 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and as ordered by Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag shall be flown at half-staff at all state buildings beginning immediately until sunset, Friday, July 22nd, 2016. Moment of silence. Thank you. All right. Got a full agenda tonight. Starting at 6:30 with Organization Pledge of Allegiance, read mail. 6:35 Conservation Commission update, review proposed wetlands protection regulations. 7 p.m. Police Patrol Officer appointment. 7:10 Public input, members updates. 7:15 Public hearing, roadway improvements plan with street scan presentation. 7:45 3 items under Highway Department. First one, scheduled public hearing on transfer station fees. Second one, Highway States Road Salt Contract for FY17. And the last one is Household Hazardous Waste Intermunicipal Agreement for Devon's Regional Facility to add the town of Clinton. 8 p.m. Public hearing. Common particular license for Intimate Moments Chef Service. 8:15, another public hearing, license application for the use of land at 53 Air Road for a presentation on Air Liquid Hydrogen Hub. 8:45, 2 items under Town Administrator, adopt the 2018 budget calendar and reschedule the Selectmen's FY17 preliminary goal setting exercise. 9 p.m. Minutes approval. All right, so let's dig in with mail.
Just a few items, Madam Chair. We got a letter with interest in selling a portion, a property at 22 University Drive to the town, and so we will take a look at that. Its assessed value is $153,000, and we have received the inquiry. We have not received back comments from staff, but we will follow that up. We have an invitation to an event on Wednesday, August 17th at noon at the Senior Diner. It's a barbecue hosted by State Senator Jamie Eldridge and State Representative Jim Arcero for the seniors, and so we'll look forward to that event. Also in your packet, you should have the monthly update from the Mass Municipal Association. There's an awful lot happening. The formal session of the legislature ends on July 31st, and that in between the Republican National Convention last week and the Democratic National Convention this week, that the legislature has been even meeting on the weekends to act formally to try to get legislation through. And so they've still not completed action yet on our home rule petition for an additional liquor license, but we'll continue to monitor that and other things that are in the offing, including potentially an override of the gubernatorial veto of the $50,000 that was appropriated for Littleton public safety communication.
So I just read an email that the legislature overrode $100 million worth of his veto, so I don't know if that was included or not.
Yeah, I searched the legislature's website earlier today and didn't see an update on what Littleton has at stake, but we'll follow that up with our legislators. Very good. That's it.
Okay. Then, item number 2, Conservation Commission and new proposed wetlands protection regulations. Hello. Hey, Anna, I didn't see that. Hi. I'm so focused. Good evening.
Yeah, well, for the past couple of years, sorry, a long time ago, we were revising over and over again and developing the regulations, which were permitted and allowed for the Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 171, which allows us to establish regulations, design specifications, performance standards, and other measures and safeguards, including setbacks, no disturb areas, and other work limits for protection of areas subject to protection. So the bylaws allowed us to develop the regulations. We then developed them, and we are at a point now where we have a draft to give over to you for review and hopefully for approval. And so I just wanted to go through the most important changes for each section.
Definitely.
So I think you have a slide that goes through all these sections and what was changed or what was the most important aspect.
Put in a slide the summary that, the executive summary that we have in the packet, and so we just put it up on a slide so it looks easier to read. And this is the first time, by the way, that the Board of Selectmen has received proposed wetlands regulations from the Conservation Commission. It was back in 2013 that the board, that town meeting amended the wetlands bylaw to allow for regulations. And with this board's suggestion was that those regulations be subject to the Selectmen's approval, approved by Conservation, but subject to your approval. So we're bringing it tonight for an initial briefing, and this is our first go-around. The Conservation has not yet had their public hearing under it, but wanted to brief you first on the subject matter, and then they'll have their hearing. If there are issues or changes that you'd like to see made, you can, give that input to Conservation, but ultimately they'll, if you were to end up approving the draft that they're bringing you tonight, and at their hearing, there were subsequent changes, they'd need to come back for a final change. So,
And it has been reviewed by town council and our...
who's here tonight?
Who's here
Rebecca
tonight,
Lacy is here tonight from town council.
And her changes were implemented as a part of one of our other meetings. We went over each comment and changed the document accordingly. So it has been revised, and the red line that I gave you tonight shows only the red line of today's changes that I implemented because the formatting was off. So I reformatted and also a couple other minor details. But for the most part, it's...
Yeah, in your packet, you have a document dated May 23rd, that you also have a set, the board has a set of red line changes, which are basically non-substantive, just formatting changes, but just so you'll see where those changes are. You have a red line version marked draft.
Right, so the red line doesn't show, the changes that were implemented by council. Those are integral to the document. They don't show up as red line, but it does incorporate her comments. And for the most part, we specifically went through to make sure that it's consistent with the bylaw, doesn't overstep the bylaw. And yet we've done what it allows us to, and that is establish no disturb zone, as I'll mention as we go through. So first, section 1 is the general provisions, which include the jurisdiction of the commission, and we did not change that over both the Mass Wetland Protection Law or our own bylaw. It does not go beyond that. The exceptions are the same, jurisdiction is the same. Section 1.4 has a waiver section, and that's primarily for or to accommodate changes or allowances to go into the no disturb area that we've set up in certain circumstances where it has to for public safety, or if it was considered a taking they could modify it. And then also, we also require recording of a notice of presence of areas subject to protection to establish a stronger awareness on the deed that a certain number of the impacted area has been taken, especially riverfront. Only 5,000 square feet of area is required to be impacted under the riverfront, and you can't go beyond that. So this is a notice that so much area has been impacted and you can't go beyond that. So recording on the deed is an assurance that that will not be overstepped. And section 1.7 is a grandfathering clause, which just simply states that this is only effective against actions or applications that occur after the effective date. And section 2.5, the next section, which is up there, includes an application fee schedule, which is, we did not change the fees, however, we did change the category from minor to single-family home, and major projects are all others. So we just kind of simplified it. Instead of having to define major and minor projects that may be different than the Wetland Protection Act, we instead categorize them as single-family home and all other.
Can I ask a question on the fees?
Sure.
When was the last time the fees were looked at, and how do we compare to other towns? Do we know?
Oh, yeah, we looked at other towns, and we are very comparable to other towns, maybe even still under. We were way under before. Way lower.
Okay.
So now we've caught up to equivalent to other towns. And that was done 2 years ago now. And
So it hasn't been reviewed, or did you review
that
it
was
during?
that was put into the bylaw, and we reviewed it. That was when Heather was here.
Yep.
We reviewed it and set up a structure and amounts similar to surrounding towns. We presented to town meeting. That was passed, and that was a part of the bylaw. And then I think the following year, it was taken out of the bylaw at town meeting and set up separately, so it was more easily
Changeable.
updated.
Yeah, right.
So now we've put it into the regs, which is also more easily updated. You know, we can go through a hearing and then approve through you, and we'll be able to keep up with surrounding towns and you know, our finances separately or more efficiently.
And was that process gone through for this update? No?
No,
Oh, we
it
didn't
had
relook at
just
it.
been, so
So you
Right,
didn't
so
you didn't
we
think
we
it was
just
necessary?
clarified some of the language, but didn't touch.
You didn't think it was necessary to take a peek, or? I don't know, I'm just saying, just to make sure we're compatible, that's all. If we're gonna change it.
I mean, it's
The only
been
one
about a
that's missing is the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. There's no local fee for that. And so that one's entirely missing from the fee structure.
Yeah, we were
But-
looking at putting it in, but then we would have to change the bylaw before doing that. I'm sorry, we wouldn't have to, so.
Well, right, but because the jurisdiction is exactly the same, the delineation is exactly the same under, you know, you really wouldn't submit a separate ANRAD under the bylaw, so to me, it probably doesn't make sense to sort of require an additional fee, arguably.
I mean, if you would like, we could take a second look at that to see if we're behind in some way or could.
Just, you know, if we're consistent with the rest of the surrounding towns, I'm okay with it. I mean, I just think if we need to take a look at it, and we'll go and, just for a double check, you know? I mean, when,
It
is it gonna
really
be,
is across the board in other towns that have
yeah,
regulations.
is it gonna be an annual review, or are you gonna, you know, is the commission gonna do annual reviews of this?
We haven't set a
Or anything like
schedule.
that, schedule review or anything like that? Okay.
Looks like it was 3 years ago that the fees were last. I mean, the
Yeah.
the fees that they set are subject to approval by the selectmen. Last time I see is in 2013 that they were here for fees to be amended, so.
Just a
3 years
question.
ago.
I'll leave it up to the experts. And you know, impact, especially if you're looking for any type of funding sources, or, you know, if you guys are good with your funding sources now, or if you need some more dough, or, you know, and we're not compatible, I think this is the opportune time.
Okay.
And maybe setting a cadence for regular review, whatever that might be,
There you go.
a goal.
All right, thank you. All right, next section is section 4.2, wetland setbacks. We established a 50-foot no disturbance area, which means no building and no disturbance, which means not even work equipment. You know, your erosion control line, your edge of work has to meet that 50-foot line, except if you submit a waiver to provide otherwise. But we did not increase the 100-foot buffer zone. It's still maintained, that's our jurisdiction, 100 feet. You know, some towns increase that to 150 or even 200 for a normal wetland line, distance from the wetland line. But we did not do that, but we did just establish a no disturbance area. And Amy put together a chart, which that was sent around, right?
No, it wasn't, because it was kind of informal.
Amy put together a nice little chart with the surrounding towns and what they do. And Groton, Harvard, and Maynard all have 50 feet no disturb
Thank you.
zones. Chelmsford has 0 to 50. Buildings and parking lots of certain size, which I'm not sure what size, but 0 to 30, no impervious surface, which includes a building. So the 50-foot no disturb is very consistent with surrounding towns. Just as an example, Acton has also a 50-foot no disturb area, also 50 to 75 feet no driveway, road, or structure. So some towns are more stringent than the 50-foot no disturb, some are less, but 50-foot is really common around us. And just another thought on that. I've talked to people in Rhode Island and other places that say that the 50-foot no disturb will also significantly help Littleton in meeting its MS4 requirements, because it will reduce stormwater, increase of stormwater flow over time to our waterways. So that's another thought. Section 4.4, wildlife habitat. We add wildlife habitat as a function and value for isolated land subject to flooding, which is not part of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act. That means they need to consider that as a value for those lands subject to flooding. Section 4.6, notice regarding work in riverfront area. We allow for the recording, as I mentioned earlier, under the waiver, recording that the allowance for work within riverfront has been used up, and it's just recording the number of impacted footage for that particular application, and that it's not to exceed 5,000 square feet.
Is that for new construction, or any additions, or anything like that, or?
It gets very complicated. It'd be 5,000 square feet or up to 10% of the riverfront area on it. And then if for redevelopment, that's a separate piece of it. So if you need to, if you're gonna turn a parking lot into a building, that's like a separate category. Stormwater structures, basins don't count towards that 5,000. So it's a mishmash. So that's a really simplified piece of it, but.
Okay.
All right, moving on to section 5.2, mitigation requirements. We are proposing a 3-to-1 ratio, providing new created wetland impact. Now what that means is when a person, say, puts a driveway through a wetland and they impact a certain square footage of the wetland, they're requiring to replace that amount. And what we're requiring is if you have a certain square footage, you have to replace 3 times that amount. And the reason that is it will discourage people from impacting a certain amount of square footage, because it is very unlikely that recreated wetlands will actually function adequately as a created wetland. They've noticed over time that it's very difficult to replicate a wetland adequately. So we want to discourage direct impacts to wetland resources.
Is there a waiver to that?
Is there a waiver to that?
Would there be a special circumstance that someone might need to cross over the wetlands and you're going to make them replicate 3 times and they have no choice but to do what they were doing?
Well, mitigation also is fairly flexible. They can mitigate in other ways, like fix a stormwater culvert, or go to a different wetland entirely that's equivalent or similar and amend that wetland. So it's pretty flexible, and generally we don't need to put a waiver on that because it is so flexible. They have lots of options.
But I will just add, just to directly answer the question, the waiver provision does apply to any aspect of the regulations. It just says that strict compliance with the regulations can be waived, under certain circumstances. So if there was a particular odd circumstance, that was a particular hardship, that they would be eligible to submit a waiver request.
They appeal that to the commission.
Yes.
And driveways to an otherwise developable piece of land is one of the more common
But that's,
waivers, limited projects under the state.
Thank you. And lastly, section 6.1, stormwater management. The regulations state that any additional projects that must meet stormwater standards, but only if they're already within our jurisdiction, do we require them do we add a couple other categories of projects that have to meet the stormwater standards. And that's it in a very small nutshell. So, any questions?
That was a great overview. Thank you. Board, any other questions?
not here.
And this way we just walk through.
I'll put you back to square one.
That's a good overview. So I think the only place we zeroed in on was just the fees and making sure we're competitive and wanting to keep those fresh and up to date, however often that means.
You want to set a schedule?
Yeah, set a schedule, yearly, 2 year, whatever it makes sense for you guys. So what should be our next steps or any further input?
I was gonna say, the MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, is hoping, and I can't believe they haven't done this, is do basically a statewide survey, both of what conservation commissions are regulating, what towns are regulating, above and beyond the Wetlands Protection Act, which we aren't going, and then as well as fees and stuff like that. So hopefully, later this year, they might have something that we can just go to rather than have to go town by town by town and see what they've got.
That's good.
So we might be able to rely on that in the future, too.
Get some standards.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Nice.
Okay, very good. So, do we make a motion? Do we not? Yeah, let's do it.
Because we're approving the draft at this point, and if the commission makes any changes, they
back
come back
again.
before.
Perfect.
oh, the only other change that was mentioned to me was changing, we have a waiver in there for Eagle Scout, for no fee for an Eagle Scout, and someone said, why don't you just make it Scout? So it could include Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and whatever the Girl Scout equivalent of this Eagle Scout, which I don't know, so that was
Perfect.
the only thing you might say.
Okay.
Lauren knows that.
Ready? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Town Code subsection 171-7B to approve the Conservation Commission's proposed wetlands protection regulations, subject to approval as to form by Town Council. Second.
So, moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, good
Guys.
job.
All right, that's such a good overview, we're ahead of
Doesn't
schedule.
have any regulation.
Do whatever you want. It's amazing how quickly we can move Mr. Clavy's not here.
Last week we got a full 2 hours early.
Item number 3, Police Department. First one, Patrol Officer Appointment, Department Update from Police Chief. So first up is the appointment, I believe, Chief? Yeah, okay, good. We have Mr. Scola. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. I'd like to present Mark Scola. As you know, we had a patrol officer position open. We went through the interview processes. Mr. Scola rose to the top. Currently works at Sherburne, Mass. Had worked in Northampton, has a bachelor's degree from Westfield State. Tends to move out to this area. I believe he and his wife, who's here with him tonight, and he's why he's dressed the way he is. Plans to, they're looking.
Is that undercover?
They're currently looking in the area for a house.
You a realtor?
So, again, I guess I'll speak afterwards, but I'll let you talk to Mr. Scola and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then the board will probably have some questions for you.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Mark Scola. Born and raised in Worcester, Mass. I went to St. John's High School in Shrewsbury. After high school, had the opportunity to go to Westfield State, where I double majored in criminal justice and political science. During my time at Westfield, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. It was a good experience there. I also had the opportunity to intern for the Office of the Attorney General for the District of Columbia, not the United States. After graduating college with honors, I briefly worked for the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. I was there probably about, I'd say, a month or two before I got hired by the City of Northampton Police Department. Northampton put me through the Western Mass Regional Academy in Springfield. I worked for Northampton for about 2 years or so, and then had the opportunity to go transfer out to Sherburne. If you don't know, it's a small town close to Framingham. It's about 4,000 residents. I've been working there for the past 5.5 years now. I currently serve as the department's firearms licensing officer. My wife and I are hoping to move up to this area. She's a nurse practitioner in Lowell. Our family's from this area as well, so trying to get a little closer to home.
Fantastic, great overview. All right, board members, questions. Let's see, which way should we go? Which way should we go?
Start with me?
Yes.
Wow.
Just because.
They're gonna give Joe an opportunity to talk about real estate. Well, thank you very much. The fact that you're here is a testament to you and the way you presented yourself.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Appreciate your interest in Littleton. And you mentioned Sherburne's a little town. The one thing on your resume that I'm having a tough time getting past is the St. John's thing. I was a Varian guy, so.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure okay, now. Hold on. Let me get my list.
We're not sure which way the sorry was, though.
It's the Varian brothers. We're
We
brothers.
are brothers.
You
We
know.
are brothers at the core.
We're competitive, but we're still friends.
Well played.
Good comeback.
You're off the gray list. The question that I had prepared, and you kind of alluded to it, Sherburne is a small, kind of a bedroom community, very much in the woods. I mean, it's next to Dover. Dover and Sherburne share a regional school system. Very, very small, rural type of community, similar to Littleton. One of the biggest things that I would say Littleton, one way that we differ, is we've got a couple major highways that go through. And that is going to be a big difference. And Northampton, I'm not terribly familiar with the city of Northampton. Don't know if there are any major thoroughfares that go through there. But what would you say your experience is with responding to calls on major highways? And how do you think you'll adapt to that?
Sure, absolutely. And Sherburne does have 2 state highways going through our town. It's Route 27 and Route 16. So there is, it is fairly busy for us, at least. That's where
Okay.
they come to a point and they bottleneck. Now in Northampton, we had Interstate 91 headed north. It goes from all the way from Connecticut up to Vermont. That's something we dealt with commonly, along with Route 9 that extends all the way up through there, through our downtown.
Okay.
So we are familiar with going to traffic enforcement and responding to accidents quite frequently. Our town is similar to your size town, but it also doesn't salt the roads as much. They use very minimal salt. So in the wintertime, that tends to be fun for the police, where we're responding to cars slipping and sliding off the roadway. So we are very familiar with traffic enforcement. One of the things we do most is probably traffic enforcement, because most of our activity is self-initiated. We're not a high-volume call department, like a Framingham or, even a Worcester. Most of the stuff we're doing is what we're starting ourselves.
Okay, good answer. I'll just follow it up with, just because there was a variant comment, with your involvement with the Boys and Girls Club when you're at Westfield State. I commend you, and that's awesome. Is that something that you're looking to get involved with? We're a small community. The chief and the department have done a great job with community policing. Is that something that you think you'd like to bring some of that experience and maybe get involved with here in Littleton?
Absolutely. Working with the Boys and Girls Club was a great experience. Even at St. John's, as you know, from Zavarian, they do preach community service. That started out in high school, and before that, I went to Assumption School in Millbury, another Catholic school where, again, they preach volunteerism. Obviously, community service is more important now today than it's been ever. In Northampton, we did it. They had the ride-along program, the Citizens Police Academy. We had a foot patrol, which was very popular. They had a very dense downtown area, so it's a good way to meet business owners and residents and meet them through that way. We do it in Sherburne through our directed patrols. We have a couple elderly housing units that we go and we do meet and greets, and take some time out of your day. It doesn't take very long. Sometimes you're the highlight of their day or they're the highlight of yours. I've heard some great stories from people. And then also being the firearms licensing officer, I do get to meet more residents than I probably normally would have, working the overnight shift. I feel like I'm the mayor sometimes, depends on what's going on in the country. Everyone wants their firearms license, so it is a good opportunity to meet with the community. And obviously, that's something I would be very interested in participating with. I know the chief's mentioned a few of the officers in the department are coaches over at the high school. That's something I'd be very interested in. They also do a number of outreach programs with the youth that I'd be more than happy to participate in and get involved in the community and the department.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Selectman Glavy.
Okay, so what is the usual shift like in Sherburne? What's your routine?
So it is a little quiet. For the past few years, I was working a 12-hour night shift from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. We recently switched to a 4 and 2 schedule, similar to a town here. So mainly it'd be traffic enforcement right off the bat, try to get some self-initiated activity. It is one of those small towns that at night I'd have no problems lying down in the middle of Main Street, not worried about a car hitting me. So it is what you make of it. That's on us to be active, be vigilant, respond to calls, help the community as we can. So obviously nothing's pretty standard, but it is typically a little quieter out there.
How many are on duty on any given shift, and how big is the department overall?
So ideally it's a 12-man department. They're down a couple of guys now, but they do have a few rising up through the ranks to fill those gaps. We do 3 men on a shift. One works the desk. They dispatch for police and fire. The other 2 officers work the roadway and back each other out. So it's just three guys total, 2 on the road, 1 on the desk.
All guys or any female officers there?
Sherburne has no female officers. Northampton did have a number of female officers, including their now chief was my sergeant. A number of the detectives, some of the command staff were females, on a number of other patrolmen.
You mentioned your interest in the youth interaction from Selectmen to Coast question. Is there any kind of formal program for that in Sherburne right now?
There's nothing formal right now. So one of our officers, he was a collegiate superstar. He went to UMass. He was All-American in track. So he helps out coaching the track team. Given our overtime situation, it's not always easy to head over to the school. But we do have in our town is the high schools in Dover, the middle schools in Sherburne. So we do the DARE program. So anytime I'm working the day shift, Officer Smith is our DARE officer. We'll head over there and help them out as much as we can.
Yeah. How about, on a similar note, community policing? Is there any kind of formal program for that, or is that incorporated at all into the departments?
There's nothing formal. Again, that's something that they preach and strive for. In a small town, it's what we are at our core. We take the time, unlike some of the bigger cities, to, take care of the little things. You get the call for the cat stuck in the tree. Not just in the fire department, you can go lend a hand as well. Doing the directed patrols, just the parking walks. There's a number of ball fields. You can break out the radar gun and see if you can get kids to pick up their speeds. Even if you can't, you just give them a number every now and then. You know, so there's a number of ways to reach out to the community, even though there's nothing formally set up.
Okay. Do you have any other specialties, either that you're, yeah, I know you're a firearms licensing officer, but if there's areas you're either educating yourself in or looking for advanced training in, anything that come to mind?
So obviously, I'd be more than willing to help out with anything that the chief was willing to send my way. Right now, it's more the firearms licensing. That's kind of my niche in the department I'm working at now. We don't have many of the things that we have here with the K-9 officers, or there's not too much else going on outside of just being on patrol. But I'd absolutely be more than willing to help out with anything, whether it be accident reconstruction, DRE, anything along those lines. I'm more than willing to help out.
Sure. Well, is that what Mark Durance is the selectman there?
He is.
Yes. What would he say about you?
I hope Mr. Durancis likes me.
You've been there forever.
Yeah, he has been there a very long time. He's the one that appointed me, so
Okay.
hopefully I've made him proud.
I noticed you worked, only a month at the sheriff's department?
I was there a very brief amount of time. I had just graduated college, looking for jobs. I was there for about a month, and then Northampton gave me the call that they're going to take me and put me through. So,
What did you do there at the sheriff's department?
So I was a temporary corrections officer. So it's literally the same thing as being a corrections officer minus the academy. So they let you work the cell blocks. The only thing you're not allowed to do is the maximum security cell block. That's the one that the new guys aren't allowed to go near. Other than that, it's the same exact duties as a regular corrections officer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr?
Thank you. Congratulations to get here, Mark.
Thank you.
I just have one question for you. Policing's changed over the past couple of years. As we all know, you watch the news. How has this impacted you as a person and as an officer?
Absolutely. Well, I tell people not to believe what they see on TV all the time. I think as of late, you just assume we're all monsters and we're just waiting to take advantage of somebody. I've noticed it the past couple of weeks on car stops. People are literally trembling as I'm walking up to the car, and I think that's part of society today. And you try to offset that with a friendly demeanor, and if you can give somebody a positive experience, then great. I've had people shaking in their boots at the beginning of the stop, and then by the end they're laughing, joking, and shaking my hand.
As you're giving them the ticket?
I've had people shake my hand and say thank you as I gave them the ticket. So, I try not to take it personal. I know I'm not the guy that in those videos doing those things all the time. And it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, an officer that's 5,000 miles away. But at the same time, we're in the same uniform and we're all held to the same standard. So that's something that I take personally myself, and I want to present myself properly. I want to make my brothers and sisters proud. My sister, she's an officer now in Florida. I think of her, she's a new officer. She just started getting on the road herself. So I've been doing this for the past 7.5 years, and I am concerned for her. I feel like I can handle myself, but I do worry about her down there, where hoping that she's able to do the same thing I'm able to do.
How about personally?
Personally, it's tough sometimes. It's easy to get mad, and assume that everyone's against you, and that's far from it. We've had people dropping off cookies and cakes, and kids making signs saying that they appreciate us, and people waving. That's something that kind of warms the soul, and you realize that not everybody hates you. And I try not to take everything that's happening right now personally. Obviously, I can do only what I can to try to make things better and give us a better image.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. Mr. Knox?
I really like, Mark, the answers that you gave on community policing, because I think that's part of the answer to what Mr. Carr was talking about also. And to get out of the car, out of the cruiser sometimes, to just meet people and get out there. I'm a strong believer of that, and I really liked your answers. My only question would be, why make a change from where you are now? Are you looking for a more busy department or another reason? Or?
So the main reason was ideally the location. Again, my wife works in Lowell. She's a nurse practitioner. We commute from Worcester. She commutes out from Worcester to Lowell every day. Sherburne's kind of the opposite end of 495. So we're at that point in our lives where we're looking to settle down. We want to buy a house. Her sister lives in Harvard, which is close by. She just had a child. Her parents live in Tewksbury, so we want to just get closer to family, and this was an ideal community to settle down and raise a family.
And my question for you would be, what would be one of your key learnings that you'll take from your previous experiences and bring them here to Littleton?
Absolutely. So I feel it's important to have patience. That's something that's, you can't really, something that's learned, to hear people out and to do the right thing. I try to take away from all my experience, whether it be, working at the jail, however brief that was, seeing the DA side of things during that internship, and my experience with the past 7.5 years. You see how the whole criminal justice system, the wheel turns, and try to niche myself in there so I can make a better officer myself.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, are we ready for a motion?
I'll make it.
Wait for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Mark S. Scola of Worcester, Mass. to the position of patrol officer with the Littleton Police Department, subject to the successful completion of medical testing.
Sorry.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We can help you out with the
Thank you very
house.
much. I know, you're my guy here. Thank you very much.
All right, and now the chief has a few important updates for us on a couple of key points as well. Thank you for that, by the way. Good summary, so let's,
Just wanted to keep you update what's going on over the next few months and important things. Deputy Chief Patterson will be leaving August 5th for the Southern Police Institute, which is required under his, which is required under the job description for a deputy chief. They have to go to the FBI Academy or Southern Police Institute, so I decided to send him where I went. One of the reasons for that, to be quite frank, is the FBI Academy is so backed up to try and get individuals into, and also because I'm an alumnus of the Southern Police Institute, we got him a full ride scholarship to go there.
nice.
Congratulations.
For New England, they're trying to attract people from New England, so there's a 5-state scholarship that they award to, especially when it's an alumnus that's gone there and they're trying to send somebody else, so.
That's great.
So he'll be heading out August 5th down there for 14 weeks. We'll see him back briefly in late September?
September 15th.
September 15th for a week, when he comes back to do all his research on the department, to go back and write his one of 14 different papers that he has to write while he's down there. So a couple things, just want to call your attention during that time period. I am on vacation. Originally, he was supposed to go in January, but because of class filling up, it got postponed. I'll be on vacation that first week of September. However, I'll be in Bridgeton, Maine, so I'm only a couple hours out by phone. We'll utilize our chain of command as we always do for situations like that, and if need be, obviously, I have both my computer and my phone up there, and it'd be no different than if I was 2 hours out just on a normal weekend or something like that. I'll get back here if it's, something really serious, what needs my, feet on the ground, for lack of a better term. So, and we'll be in contact on a daily basis with, the shift commanders and the sergeants and things of that nature, and also my administrative assistant will be here. Number two, we're still waiting to hear what the legislature does with our funding on the radio system, and so we just kind of have to wait on that. I did want to make the board aware, and I did make the FinCom aware, that even at the $50,000 range, that only gets us halfway to where we need to be, so we'll have to kind of wait and see what the legislature does, and then we'll kind of make a battle plan from there. I did want to clear up an issue that had come up during conversations and some other backdraft about the radio system in and of itself, and that allegedly how the fire department left us high and dry, and nothing could be farther from the farther from the truth on that. This is more as much of a global picture as a local picture. We've now taken steps through our software upgrade that the police fire have good communications, still some bugs to be worked out at scenes and things of that nature, so that's not an issue. The bigger picture, which kind of got lost in this whole conversation is anytime we have responders who come into town, or anytime we respond out of the community, which, you know, in this day and age is quite often, you know, these new radios will give us the ability to communicate pretty much anywhere in the state. With the state police, doesn't matter whether you have UHF, which is ultra-high frequency radios, VHF, which is what we operate under, and the 800 bands that the state operates under in many of the situations. These new radios would allow us to do that. And the ease of use in town will just augment what we currently have. So I did want to clear that up because there were some questions that the
Yes.
chair had handled, things like that, but, you know, first off, also, Chief Wazinski inherited this radio upgrade, he did not, you know, and so I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank
The
you.
fire department did not leave the police department or anyone else high and dry in this issue.
Appreciate it.
Strategic plans moving forward, we had our off-site meeting on Friday, it was a great meeting, they did a great job, and I expect to see the strategic plan in your hands late August to early September. A lot of great input was gained from both the external and the internal surveys.
I meant to ask you, probably 3 meetings ago, you had said you should have got an email. I never did get one of the strategic
Because
plan.
I know,
I got one.
I
I
did check
did
for
end up
many of you
getting
that did
one.
reply, so I'll double check,
Yeah,
but,
but it's okay, I mean, it must be too late. It
Yeah.
could be in my spam, I don't even know.
so, that's moving forward, and, I know, you know, I was very encouraged with, the input from, the officers, and, what the offsite was, is just for the officers to meet with the facilitators and start to funnel down, if you will, the information into usable pockets of what the town wants, what the officers think they need, and then start to move those chess pieces around and get them in the proper form. So it was really advantageous, and I think the fire department's gonna find the same thing. I believe their offsite is coming up August 5th. That these facilitators, they really know what they're doing, and they're really, they would be able to do more than what I would just be able to do to get the strategic plan, because they've done, you know, 150 of them. And they can hone in on those areas, especially the fine tuning that needs to be done in a smaller community, because it can't just be a boilerplate, you know, I can give you a boilerplate strategic plan, but it's gonna be honed to Littleton, and to what, you know, the residents and what the officers and what we do.
Yep.
So that's moving forward. Department, we're moving towards full accreditation, we're still moving full bore on that. I just notified, we will receive our accreditation certification from the commission on September 14th in Dover, Mass. So that's our first step, so that's a great thing.
That's awesome.
My kudos to Matt Pinard and Jeff Patterson, who've done a lot of work along with myself, moving forward, and continue to do. Deputy Patterson will get a 14-week break, in which I'll really have to step into the policy building role along with Sergeant Pinard. I believe the board has some policies from us now for your consideration, so you will see more of those flowing as time goes on now to get us up to full accreditation, which I'm pushing forward to get it through in the spring, because you have 1 year from the time you get your certification, which actually is last spring, to get done. Otherwise, you have to go through the certification, accreditation, and the full accreditation again. So we're really moving
Get it
along.
done. Very good.
Notified, the department's notified that we may have an officer going out on orders for up to a year. Obviously, it's an impact, and, you know, I'll keep the board apprised on that. Student Police Academy date started today. It's actually a kind of a different academy. We have 16 young men and women, but out of the 16, we have 13 women in the class.
Wow.
So, both
That's cool.
Ashley Brooks and Megan Wazinski are highly involved in this academy for, you know, they would be anyways, but especially now. Graduation's Friday, it's at 1:30 in the afternoon, only because we had to push it up because we lose there's many of our female cadets that are student athletes and are going to different tournaments. Mr. Knox's granddaughters are two of those that have to leave early, that would be leaving early that day for tournaments, I believe softball tournaments, right? And there's some others too, so I'll put an email out. If any of you can attend, it'll be at the police station at 1:30, but I'll get an email out to you. So I just wanted to keep the board apprised of what's going on, and, you know, because it's a busy few months going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Appreciate
Thank
it. Any comments,
Appreciate
questions?
appreciate the support of the board as always.
Just a quick comment, I'm not looking for any necessarily a summary right now, but as far as the offsite meeting, if there's any, big balls that came away from that you could share with us, not now, just maybe at a future meeting.
Okay.
We could schedule some time to kind of go over, what kind of fell out of that, and if there's anything we can do to kind of support what fell out of that,
Okay,
all right?
certainly can do that.
Good.
We'll get the time through the chair and through Mr. Bergman, and certainly.
Good, thanks.
Fantastic.
If I just have one question for the fire chief, did you send out the emails with the strategic plan too, or is that, jeez, I didn't get that one either.
I looked at the list, I know you're there.
Yeah, no,
Oh, we have a public hearing. I apologize.
You sent it to all of us?
I saw that one.
You know, I got one from you, but did I get one from you? Did I respond? Did I give a good answer?
It was that really long wordy one.
It was anonymous.
He puts you to his spam.
So yes, you did.
I don't remember getting one from the fire department, that's all.
Okay. Well, we'll
little over
just
here.
double check
Thanks
that.
for the
Yeah, we're
updates.
over. Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate it.
chief.
thank you, chief.
All right, so we're gonna skip public input for now and come back to it. We gotta
Good with
open the
Mark.
public hearing.
The Littleton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 2016, at 7:15 PM in Room 103, Littleton Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, on the roadway improvements plan, including presentation from Street Scan, available at the town's website, www.littletonma.org. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Office of the Board of Selectmen / Town Administrator, Town of Littleton, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, by noon Friday, July 22nd, 2016, or in person at the hearing. Board of Selectmen, Melissa Hebert, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Okay, so let's continue with this topic. We'll come back to public input and members' updates, but we're here now, so let's just dive in. All right, so we have a good summary here, and Keith,
Yeah, we don't have our consultant here yet.
or, so do you want to wait? Is that better?
Open, continue the hearing, is sure that would be.
Yeah, we could, for a few minutes anyway at this point. It's, we've got the presentation, but I think we'd want the opportunity to get on the radar.
Sure.
Have them go through it.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing for roadway improvements plan.
Second.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good, we'll come back. All right, then let's go back to public input and then members' updates. So first up, public input. Anybody? All right, we will do members' updates. I'm gonna go this way this time. Mr. Knox, what updates do you have this week?
I just want to mention, Thursday occurred this past Thursday, for the first time it was held at Fay Park. I thought it was an outstanding move. It was done so they could coordinate the movie afterwards, and also allowed Springdale Farm to bring down some animals so they could actually hammer stakes in the ground, so it worked out fine. I was a strong believer of having it on the common. I thought it was great in preparation for our 300th anniversary to get people aware of it, and during the 300th anniversary, and I'm still strong about that. But after seeing what happened at Fay Park, where parents could go down with the young children and let the kids run around, and they could go to different booths and things without boring them with the traffic. I'm going to meet Friday with the Park and Rec again, and that's one of the discussions that maybe we'll make it a permanent site on Fay Park instead.
That's great.
Wasn't able to attend Fay Park, but I'll say going through the common was a big difference.
Yep, two
As
benefits.
it turned out, though, it's a good thing we didn't have it at Fay Park, because there was an accident down the street that same night. Which would have, yeah, at the common, which would have,
Really messed things up.
yeah, it was bad enough anyway, and Thursday would have just doubled it, probably.
Very good. Good idea. Mr. Carr?
I really have no updates.
Mr. DePost?
The only update I'll give is relative to the Alumni Field Renovation and Advisory Committee. And that is, we've received all the OPM and designer packets. There will be interviews tomorrow evening for the OPM, the owner's project manager. And we're reaching out, doing reference checks on the designers. So there's 5 designers, there's 3 OPMs. And hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have negotiated a contract with the OPM, and then over the course of the next couple of weeks, we'll do some interviews with the designers and move the process forward.
Great
There
progress.
is a meeting Wednesday evening, 7:15, at the police station for the Alumni Field Renovation Advisory Committee.
Good. You guys are making some good headway.
It's not that many meetings either.
Mr.
It's all
Glavy.
good.
I have nothing particular to add this week.
Actually, I do have
Sure,
one thing,
go for it.
sorry. There's been a lot of, I've been receiving calls about 2A, 1 King Street, and the construction that's going on out there. It's National Grid, and they are replacing the gas main that's out there. And if the fire chief had worked out with National Grid and Mass Highway to get this done because of some of the majority of the leaks that were going on and how old that main was. 2A will be paved eventually. Right now, they're just doing all the work to get the new gas mains in. Once that's done, then they'll come to and do the construction on the road. One question people do ask me, the granite sidewalks, there are some along 2A. Will they continue, Jim, will we be having any involvement in Mass Dot?
They have not asked us for any input, and we're gonna try and get them to rebuild sidewalks, but we're not sure how that's gonna work.
Okay.
We pushed them on the section of King Street down by New Estate and St. Anne, and they rebuilt them there.
Okay. Can you just let the board know when that communication does happen, so if members can make some phone calls, possibly to help you in your efforts? So, 2A, I believe it's from Westford all the way to 495, right? Will be paved. And one other thing too, that now that it's all coming back to me, the bridge going over 495, the striping's gone. And I don't know if you make the call, or chief, you make the call to get Mass Highway up there, there is no striping. Everybody kind of does this as they're coming off of going over 495. When they figure out, oh,
On
this
King
is,
Street?
yeah, this is not the lane for me to travel towards the common, they think they're going down 495 and they're cutting across the road, because there's no striping out there at all.
I do have a call in, and I'll memorialize it with an email that I'll copy the chair and Mr. Bergman on with them, so walk them in, because sometimes when you put it in writing, they pay a little bit more attention.
Sure.
One other thing, just to interrupt 1 second on the gas main, they will be switching to night work once they hit Jennifer Street. Going through the common, they'll be switching to night work, so we still have to work out the logistics on that. We're meeting this week on it, and I will send out a briefing to the board as soon as I get the particulars, but there'll probably be something like 9 at night till 5 in the morning, working through the common, because obviously, the common during the daylight hours would be just a disaster.
Right.
Yep.
And I think DeFelice is gonna finish Gray Road shortly, right?
We heard they were supposed to do the sidewalk today, and then for whatever reason, they backed up and left.
That's because we kicked them off.
What was that?
DeFelice on Great Road.
The water main.
Oh, yeah.
Just the gas main too, the Mass Highway or Mass DOT restricted their permit from 9 to 3. So they're only doing about 120 feet of main a day. And they won't let them work Saturdays. So they've tried as hard as they can to extend the hours. I mean, I understand the 9 to 3 because of the traffic, but they basically can only work until noon. They have to start to backfill and compact so they can get paved and be off the road by 3. And they have asked for Saturdays and been declined like several times. So they've actually done pretty well for the short amount of time that they're allowed to work.
Interesting.
So some of the thought process on Saturdays from the state is that they're disrupting the road Monday through Friday as it is, and they were afraid disrupting it on Saturdays would even upset the residents even more so on just trying to do it on a simple Saturday. We did extend them, they can come down at 8:30, was able to work out that they can start at 8:30 in the morning, but everyone knows what King Street gets like, and they're supposed to stop by 3:30. We extended that till 3:30, but, that ends up being 3:45, and what King Street looks like, especially the way 495 has been of late. But we are trying to work with them to get the process done, because the sooner they get done and get all their things done, MassDOT will pave.
Thank you.
One thing just to add to that, once they're done extending the main to the town line, then they will be going back to redo all of the services, all the way back to where they started. So it's not done, that's only half.
All the tie-ins?
Yeah, they need to do the tie-ins to every residence.
Like, I saw them go up Foster Street, and is that just legs off, or what are they
Yep.
doing there?
They went up Foster and Rogers, tied it off. They'll do Jennifer, they'll Goldsmith. Same when they get to Stevens, the intersection at Stevens Street and King, it's a big junction area. That's why, one of the main reasons it's going to be at night. It's going to be a major project to do that whole junction over. But then, once they're done, they need to come back and redo all the services to every house along the way.
So, it's not gonna be paved this year then, huh?
Probably not, they usually want to let it overwinter anyway. So
settle.
the trench will settle and then they'll mill it and pave next year probably.
So on a great road.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just a couple of different things from my side. First and foremost, now it actually is his birthday. Happy birthday, John Powers. It's my boyfriend's birthday today, and we are on vacation, yet I'm still here. Appleman was this Saturday, went down really well. Thank you to everyone who was involved in that. I got my cowbell. I got to be on the run course. It's my favorite part. Master Plan Update Steering Committee was down at Third Thursday at the booth. We've got T-shirts. Keith, I understand you're in possession of one of the cool new T-shirts. It says 01460 on the front, and on the back it says Back Littleton's Master Plan. So come down and get one. $6, great deal, blue and gold. Go Master Plan Update Steering Committee. And lastly, Jen Gibbons. We have a little something here for you as a thank you from all of us. We may have one more meeting where you're here, but just in case, we wanted to make sure we gave you something, a gift certificate to Springdale Farm, and Jamie also threw in this nice bag, as well as to the nail salon next to Don Lenz, and a card from all of us. So, thanks very much.
13 years.
13 years. So what are we going to do? It's the receiving one.
Thank you. I guess I can go across.
Oh, we're not doing that already?
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
That's inappropriate in the workplace.
I'll have to do it with the cameras rolling.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I remember when Jen came on board, she replaced a legend in Linden Up, and as sad as that was, at that time, Linda was moving on to be town clerk, but we've never missed a beat since then, and I think Jen is tremendously under the radar for most of the people in the town of Littleton. Her skills go well beyond administrative. She's a former chairman of the planning board in the town of Air, where she comes from. She knows this business as well as we do, and she's smart enough to keep her mouth closed a lot of times when she probably doesn't want to. But anyway, you'll be missed.
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Levy. All right, moving right along. So should we keep a hold on the public hearing?
We've got a few other items
Yeah, a
that
couple of highway.
that Mr. Clyde is here for, so I would
Okay.
suggest we do those, and after we've completed them, that we can carry on with the hearing without the consultant. So we could do
Sounds good.
6A.
Let's do 6A. Public hearing on transfer station fees and regulations.
And the board typically holds a hearing during the month of August for the transfer station fees that would take effect on October 1st. And this year, no increases are proposed from the fees that were set a year ago. Last year, we made some changes in the hours. It's the same. We're not proposing to increase or to change the hours, but to just continue current operations and continue with the current fee structure.
So Jim, you're not going to ask for Sundays?
So, August 8th, I'm gonna be on vacation, but I'm leaving the 5th.
And Chuck's not here.
Correct.
On Do we have a
Make it the
quorum on the 8th?
I'll be here on the 8th.
You will or won't?
Will.
You will? I will.
Okay, so we'll have 3,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not coming back. I think it's noble that you did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have no Chuck, no Jim. So do we want to push it
Just for the
to-
record, we're not going on vacation together.
Make it proclaim that if we were.
It's pretty basic.
It's all good.
That was pretty
Okay.
clear.
Put it on the 8th then? Yes.
All right, move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to the Town Code, Chapter 181, to schedule a public hearing for Monday, August 8, 2016, at 8 PM on fee structure and regulations for the use of the Town of Littleton Transfer Station effective October 1st, 2016, with no changes to the transfer station operating hours and no increase to the annual sticker fees currently at $110 for regular and $35 for seniors, or bag costs currently $2.25 for 33 gallons, $1.25 for 15 gallons, and 75 cents for 8.5 gallon bags. And further, to invite input from the general public, the Board of Health, and the Highway Department.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Very good.
Thanks, Jim.
Have that next time. 6B is pretty easy too, right? Should we try that one?
Right on.
This is actually a decrease in the,
Yeah, that's good.
in the rate.
State road salt contract. So it went down from, where is it again?
67,
Yeah, it
85.
was 67.85 for the last 2 years, and it's 65.81 per ton.
The regular statewide contract, Jimmy, you're always involved with it?
Yeah, it's the Mass State contract, and it's kind of interesting, they have it written in such a way that if the salt company gives another company or another entity a lower price, they get that price. So it's supposed to be,
The best of the best.
they've done pretty well, we've had no issues with that. We were concerned that everyone would be on that contract and we'd struggle to get salt, but the company treats us pretty well.
Nice.
Any other questions, comments on this one? Sounds
Move
good
that
to
the
me.
Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of memorandum of understanding to purchase off the VEH 95 State Road Salt Contract for 2016-2017 at $65.81 per ton.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Should we go for a hat trick?
Sure.
All right.
Yahtzee.
Yahtzee. Household hazardous waste intermunicipal agreement for Devon's regional facility, adding the town of Clinton.
Town of what?
Oh, my favorite? Is that what you're looking at?
We're, the agreement that we signed requires each of the member communities to approve the addition, and we had previously approved adding Ashby and Stowe to the original group, which was Devon's, which they function as a town. Ayer, Bolton, Groton, Harvard, Lancaster, Lunenburg, and Townsend, along with us. And I think it's been very successful because it's allowed us to offer a number of opportunities throughout the year for disposal of household hazardous waste. Prior to our being involved in this, it was once every couple of years and like on one day. So it's been helpful to have the additional capacity. And adding Clinton won't undermine our ability. So you can vote for Clinton tonight, so.
I knew something was coming like that.
I know, I was trying to figure it out. I couldn't
I
find
may
it.
Vote for the Gales.
Yeah, Gales.
Yeah.
All right, move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 4A, to authorize execution of the Second Amendment to intermunicipal agreement by and among communities in the Devon's region participating in the Devon's Regional Hazardous Products Collective Facility Program to admit the town of Clinton to the collaborative.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I'm closed.
Our consultant said when he put our address in, he inadvertently put it in Natick, he's in Natick right now, and
So he's not coming tonight.
so it'll take him 40 minutes to get here.
No,
So
we're
this
gonna-
is, hold on, this is the
I can
street,
give you the
smart
list.
street guy. Smart street is in Natick. Fantastic.
You have to look up, because they look down, the street scan.
They're wicked good at computers, though.
I would,
I can defer this to Keith, he's the one that hired them.
Body blow, body blow.
Here we go, here we go.
today.
so.
You walk us
talking
through the
about
presentation?
I can, I'm gonna give you the low-tech version, though, that we had a high-tech version back in January, and we thought it would be well to sort of do an update on it. But the most important part, and we will get you the high-tech version, and we'll share that with the board and the public, and I'll post it at the website, but it's been a while since the board has considered what the order is for our next projects. The list that you see here on the screen and that was in Bonnie's memo is the order in which the projects came out of our January meeting when we had the street scan presentation. Some of the numbers have been updated. New Estate Road in particular, the number here of 2.9 million reflects the change order you approved last week for the water. And just as a sidebar from our discussion last week, that we see the need to have the Board of Selectmen and the Water and Light and Water Board to get together to talk about how do we fund water main improvements, because as we look at the list, in fact, we look as we look at Nagog Hill Road, which is currently in design, it's the same, it's the same sort of water main that is there as we encountered on New Estate Road and found that we needed, because it's 60 or 70 years old and it was cracking, that it would need to be replaced.
And this 3.3 does not have the cost of potential.
No, we have not, I guess I'd
I think
defer.
that number is, we've included about $350,000 in that for the water.
In the Nagog Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for that. So this is the order in which the priorities came out of the street scan process. And in particular, it said Foster Street, which was not on our list, came into the number one position. New Estate Road and Nagog Hill came in next, but those projects are currently underway, so they're accounted for. After that, sequentially, Harwood Ave, Tehadawon, Meadowbrook, Fletcher, Lakeview, Long Lake Road, and Mattawanakie Trail. And you've also got from Bonnie, and I'm not sure I'll be able to call it up here, but you have a spreadsheet that Bonnie had prepared showing how do we fund these items over the next several years, and that she, in her memo, expressed, and Bonnie's on vacation on the Cape, so
Hey,
maybe,
I'll see you tomorrow.
rendezvous somewhere, but,
Crunch some numbers.
Hey, honey, she's at
That-
the beach.
This been shared with the finance committee?
it's
Not yet.
Not-
It just, I mean, it just was printed last week.
so printed, it was,
They've had a version of it, so it's out there, but not.
yeah. Well, we will get this updated version that Bonnie has prepared to the finance committee. It's the same as what we,
Friday.
Yeah.
it's the same
Saturday,
it's the same as we saw back in January, with the exception that we've updated the numbers to include the water for New Estate Road and Nagog Hill Road.
Well, I think she wanted to, if you move the numbers around, it changes the funding, so she wanted to wait until, if you decided to finalize the list.
Change
then
priorities.
she could change that on the funding side of it.
One of the concerns that Bonnie had in particular, which is summarized in her memo, is that if you do them in precisely the order that Street Scan proposes, then the next one up is more than we can comfortably undertake without the debt service spiking. So the suggestion was, rather than have Harwood be the next item, that if you substituted Mattawanakie Trail as, that is, Foster Street, by the way, would is proposed in this plan to happen in fiscal 2018. Then the question is, what would come up in 2019? If you do Harwood, which is
Manawaneke's 970.
1915.
Yeah, 1.9 million for Harwood. Bonnie's projections are that that would cause some spiking in our debt service costs that would not be easily flattened out. So if we could substitute a smaller project, and as it happens, Manawaneke Trail is half of that cost, we wouldn't experience the spike. The thing about Manawaneke Trail, and we had discussed this back in January, was that, and we talk about water main replacement and road work. Well, back in 1997, and I'm not sure who was here then, if any of us, but there was an agreement that was made with the residents of Manawaneke Trail by the Board of Selectmen back in 1997, where they agreed to do to take on replacement of the water, or to pay for the water main by betterment, and in return for that consideration, the selectmen then said that, all right, then the town would reconstruct the road. The roadway reconstruction didn't happen, and the residents have come back to us in the last year or two to remind us of that. And so
Water main's been done?
the water main was done back in 1990.
Just to clear it up a
Yeah.
little bit, Manawaneke's the last road in the development that did not, everything else has been done with the exception of that road.
And if we did, using the rationale,
Yeah.
that's 50% of Harwood, if we did 6 through 9, that's about 50% of Harwood as well. It would knock off 4 of our
That is true.
high needs.
That those would, that any substitution that would be a cost of $1 million instead of $2 million would be a substitute that would flatten out the debt service. We've had the folks from the neighborhood here at prior hearings, and wanted to make sure that their concerns were in front of you once again as priorities are being established. By this plan, we would not, if we went in the precise order that StreetScan has proposed, we would not otherwise get to Manawaneke until fiscal 2024. Just so it's the opportunity to move that one up if you wanted to reach back to that prior that commitment made by a prior board. You could address it in 2019 instead of 2024.
But to Jim's point, if I may, everything in that neighborhood with the exception of Manawaneke, all the other roads and trails in that neighborhood have been done?
The water being replaced in 1997 will last us 50?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 50 to 70 years, and it's ductile iron pipe, the stuff that we're using
Just doesn't
today.
change.
It's not I'm sorry?
It's ductile iron, cement line ductile iron pipe. It's what the standard is today.
So it's, okay.
Yeah.
And when was that completed?
99?
97.
Yeah.
97 was agreed.
That's in the agreement.
They did it in one construction season, and then they patched the roads after that. And then Eric had started to design, and he was just methodical in how he did it, because he had to do some roads first to get the drainage.
Proper.
So he had kind of the setup for some of the side streets first. And Manawaneke was the last one. And we were poised to do that, and then the new list came out, and it fell off the list.
How long's it been since the last road in that neighborhood has been done? Like Manawaneke was next up, but was that 3 years ago? Was it
No,
10 years ago?
it's been, about 6. Probably more than that.
I think it's longer than that.
Yeah, it's gotta be longer than that.
I'm sure the neighbors know.
I think, for my 2 cents here, the suggestion of Manawaneke Trail, and knowing that, they the residents there said, hey, we'll do the water line. You know, we'll pay for the water line. They've held their end of the bargain. I don't know, obviously I wasn't around in '97, but my inclination is to do Manawanaki Trail.
I agree.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, the order of priority on a strict needs basis is a big part of the decision making. It's not everything. There's, facts on the ground and history that factors into it, so I'd be in favor of moving the Manawanaki Trail.
It's logical.
Ready?
I think so.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to amend the roadway improvement plan by selecting the following roadway reconstruction projects to be undertaken following completion of New Estate Road and Nagog Hill Road. 1, Foster Street in fiscal year 2018, and 2, Manawanaki Trail in fiscal year 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Glad to get that done.
Fred has a question on that.
Oh, sorry. Please.
Right, just a thought while you were talking about Foster and Harwood. I was wondering if it's possible to apply for incremental Chapter 90 funds, specifically for Foster and maybe even Harwood for increased car count, thanks to the train station parking lot down there. We've got an incremental couple hundred cars that are traveling on Foster. Now, a lot of them head up the hill, but a heck of a lot of them come down towards the center of town. And I didn't know whether it was possible to request incremental funds from the state to better the road, because we have the sort of the centralized train station there now. And it's something we might want to look into. It dawned on me while I was listening to people talk about it, but that might be worth somebody looking into it. I don't know whether it's Jim or Keith.
Was your comment related to that?
Yeah, the Chapter 90 program is set up a specific way. There's 3 criteria. It goes by the town population, your road miles, and the amount of industry that you have in your town. And then it gets split up by the 351 towns. I think something like that would end up, they're not going to change the formula. It would end up being you'd have to go to like your state legislatures and ask for something, an earmark or something, I think.
These are the criteria that we're aware of: mileage, population, number employed, and then from that formula is our allotment. So basically,
That's Chapter 90, but there could well be, because of the reverse commute stuff we do or whatever, some of the other rail, since we're encouraging rail usage on those roads, to the rail usage through those roads. I'm not aware of a program, but there's a rationale.
yeah, I'm not aware of one either. There are competitive grant programs that we can go after. In fact, what we're trying to do right now is to assist the MBTA in getting MassWorks funds from which they could add parking spaces to the Littleton commuter rail station.
Why don't we add Foster Street to the application,
To add,
to the MassWorks application? For the improvement, we're gonna be adding more people on and say, hey, why not do the road over, needs help.
Especially for adding a couple hundred cars.
Right.
yeah, well, we can certainly talk about that, that if there's a particular, we got MassWorks funds for roadway improvements for Great Road and 119. So we can explore that
Kind
as
of lump it all
well.
into one, have the MBTA, having the MBTA backing and push that along too.
I think we will explore that.
Thanks for the idea. Jim, sorry.
We're also working with a consultant on the Complete Streets roads, and Foster Street is being discussed in that grouping. We're not finalized yet, but that's another possibility because of making improvements to the road.
Possibly to add sidewalks or something. It's sort of more pedestrian amenities, maybe. We've got a we'll be putting a $400,000 application into Mass DOT for complete streets improvements. That's due September 15th. We'll be back here for one of the meetings in August, once we've completed the work. Half of it, right now, the cost of doing the Russell Street sidewalk is approximately $200,000. So we're looking at what else we can do throughout town. So we've got a staff level meeting later this week, and we will have further information about that in the near future.
Great. Very
And
good.
new sidewalk plow use.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Roads done. We have an 8 p.m. public hearing, so can we tackle 9A in 5 minutes, do you think?
Should adopt the budget calendar and reschedule the whole thing.
Do the rescout, yeah, do 9B then. We gotta pick a date for our goal setting exercise.
I apologize, the last meeting I was incapacitated. I'm not sure.
Were we looking at next Monday? If
There was a
everything-
potential if everyone could be here.
The 1st, would that work?
Works for me.
I'm good.
Okay, good.
If we-
Yeah?
So we'll say goodbye to Johnny.
Yeah. What time? Standard,
6:30.
6:30?
Springdale.
Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff.
Sure, you good? All right.
And at the moment, that's the only topic, right?
Yes.
And everybody's gonna come, so we're not gonna have 3 show up and then not have to
Here we
cancel
go.
again.
Here we go.
That's right.
We need the imam here.
Go team.
What time is it on?
6:30?
That's a lot of it.
6:30 on Monday, August 1st.
Please.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to reschedule a preliminary FY 2017 goal-setting exercise for a special meeting on Monday, August 1st at 6:30.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I appreciate, keep putting together both the matrix, but also including everybody's individual memos is, there's a little flavor to that too. And I'll promise to bring mine again next week. Maybe we don't need to copy them again if everyone remembers. Sure.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Budget calendar, looking ahead. This calendar was approved by the Finance Committee at its meeting. Fred's gone.
Gary's
but We did approve, the Finance Committee did approve this schedule. One of the main things to note is that the budget request would be due on November 21st instead of the end of October, and that the joint, the day-long budget meeting is proposed for January rather than December. Part of that has to do with the lateness of our special town meeting this fall. We're going to, if we have it on Wednesday, November 16th, there's not time to do, the staff will be dealing with the current fiscal year and getting the tax rate set. And we've chosen a late date for the special town meeting to maximize the amount of time that the major building projects have to get ready, the Alumni Field and the fire station. So that would require, though, that we have a day-long budget review at a later point, and the proposal is for Saturday, January 7th, for that day-long budget meeting.
Madam Chair? If, I understand the logic, and if the Finance Committee and the Finance Department are both on board with that, fine, but I would point out that, this is getting away from when we originally made the, decision to go to the full budget session. It was that departments had most of their budget request stuff done by October or so, and our budget meeting last year, I think, was third week in November. So this is
Yep.
closing in on 2 months later. When we made it an all-day session at the beginning of the process, the hope was to gain a lot of time between November, December, January to work on priorities or problems that were identified because we got at them early. Now, by putting it off till January, we won't even be looking at what our priorities or conflicts are. Just inevitably, we won't, that's off in January at some time. So I think it reverses our attempt to lengthen the period of consideration. Just put that out there for what it's worth.
We could resolve it with an earlier special town meeting, so that we're dealing with the current fiscal year and, earlier, but this year, that works at cross purposes of the capital
I
project.
got a simpler solution. Go with the calendar as is, but not be married to it for future. If we get it in a
Absolutely.
process
Yeah,
next
this
year
year, yeah.
where we're just
Yeah.
finding that we're rushed at the end and we're not dealing with it, and then also the fact that the hearing's not until the 7th shouldn't mean we don't have scheduled discussions of priorities well before that, leading up to it.
Right, and indeed, the budget request will be done by November 21st.
So everybody should.
That the budget documents will be
Right, they'll be available and all
It's just that, to have a Saturday in December.
Fine.
It wasn't gonna work.
Yep.
During
Okay.
the holidays. So certainly, we can schedule for the regular meetings of the Board of Selectmen in December.
Yep.
We can be talking about,
Individual
we can be
reviews
looking
of
at the
departments
budget.
and all the rest of
Yeah,
it. Sure,
we can do
okay.
that.
And that's
Sure can.
that's all I want to offer on that.
Yep.
Just one thing. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Wilson on his appointment to the Finance Committee, and also sorry for your loss.
Thank
Your
you.
mom.
Okay, thank you. And we have to open public hearings, so if we want to talk a little bit more about this, let's open it and put it on hold.
We're okay
You
with
can
it,
do the
right?
motion, yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
I'll motion that we, Jim, you read all the motions, right?
You can read it if you want.
All right,
Go ahead,
I'll
have
move that
at
the
it.
Board of Selectmen
Just wanna
vote to
get this
adopt the
going.
2018 budget calendar as recommended by the Finance Committee and Department of Finance and Budget, including one joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee on Monday, September 26, 2016, Tuesday, October 18th, 2016, Tuesday, January 17th, 2017, and Tuesday, March 7th, 2017. FY 2018 operating capital budget request due Monday, November 21st, 2016, and 3, review of budget requests with Selectmen and Finance Committee on Saturday, January 7th, 2017.
Second.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good, let's open up the public hearing. Ready?
All right, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, July 25th, 2016, at 8 PM in Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, to act on an application for a common particular license by Jonathan Finer, owner, manager, doing business as Intimate Moments Chef Services, located at 305 Foster Street, Littleton, Mass. The hours of operation will be Monday through Sunday, 6 AM to 10 PM. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectman Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, by no later than Friday, July 22nd, 2016, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Melissa Hebert, Chair.
Thank you. So you must be Jonathan Finer.
That's me.
Fantastic. All right, tell us a little bit about your business, yourself, what you're trying to do. You have an existing business in town. Tell us the story.
Intimate Moment Chef Service is a personal chef service. It was started back in 1993 in Brighton, Massachusetts. I've moved, so it's moved with me. We go to people's houses, cook romantic dinners for 2, parties up to 10. We also do things like backyard barbecues, in-home cooking lessons, and a few other things like that. That usually doesn't require a catering license or things like that because everything's prepared in the person's home. However, I want to move into doing small-scale catering, so one of the ways of doing so is to find a place to work out of. Sometimes the gods smile upon us, and I was looking to share this space at 305 Foster with whoever was in there. They had left already. The company said, well, do you want to take it over and operate it? So basically, it's meant, what it's going to wind up doing, hopefully it'll pay for itself and provide me with a place to do small-scale catering and so on and so forth. I'm very local. I literally live right down the street at Liberty Square Road in Boxborough. So it's right around the corner for me as far as a place to work out of. Normal operation hours, because I do have regular customers that I work for as a personal chef, are going to be between about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning until about 2:30 in the afternoon. Breakfast and lunch, Monday through Friday. That's to service that building and the other buildings that are in the area. There are no other places currently at that, in that particular space.
So you would serve breakfast and lunch to the public and as well as
Yes.
cater to, okay.
And as well as doing corporate catering, which is something that isn't being done in that area as well. So basically, it's to provide a service to them and a gainful employment to myself and give myself another stream of revenue. I've been a chef for, well, I've been in a professional kitchen since the age of 12. That's more than 40 years. This is what I do for a living. I did not grow up locally, even though I was born in Randolph. I grew up in Israel. I'm a dual citizen, served in the military over there, came back to the United States. Did go through a bad period of time after my military service, unfortunately. It does happen to a lot of us, but I've straightened myself out a long time ago. And I've been working on this for many, many years. So this is basically the next progression.
And do you bring with you a staff, or would you be hiring folks, or?
Right now I will be hiring one person who is somebody who's worked with me before. He's a young, recent graduate of culinary school. So he wants to go through things, though not from my alma mater. I took my bachelor's degree at New England Culinary up in Montpelier, Vermont. He went to well, it was open, the Cordon Bleu in Cambridge. Unfortunately, they closed for whatever reasons. But he's a good kid, and I'd like to bring him up. He has a full-time job as a waiter as well, so I want to get him back into the kitchen a little bit and get him more exposed. I will be hiring as the more it develops. Hopefully, the more corporate catering that we do, the more other things that we do, I hope to hire and certainly hope to give local people a chance to come in, both from here in Boxborough.
So Keith, from our side, have we got any letters, or have we?
We have sign off from the police department. So we're all set.
I see the address 305 Foster, I'm trying to picture, what building is that?
It's if you're coming from Taylor or Liberty Square, whichever way you want to call it, as you're coming down, it's the first one on your left.
Okay, yep.
Is that where Andrea was?
That is correct. That's where Andrea was.
Now we know where you are.
All right, board members, other questions, Mr.?
No, I would just suggest that you have some kind of signage out there, because I know when Andrew was there, I knew she was there, but someone going by had no idea that she was in existence.
Yeah, I'm in the process of working on that, actually. We're going to have, they're going to put Intimate Moment Chef Service up on the regular board, so that the company is on their regular board. Plus, I'm working on other signage to go out front. I actually think, believe it or not, I'm not really counting on foot traffic. I'm more counting on doing corporate stuff. So that means sending out flyers, going to the buildings that are around that area, giving flyers maybe even to some of the other buildings that are not quite so close. Right. And giving them menus and flyers and so on and so forth, and talking about the different things that we can do for them. So part of the problem with Andrea was that she wasn't doing any of the corporate catering that they need. She wasn't doing the sandwich platters that they need for a lunch meeting. She wasn't doing any of those things. So that's something, I worked for 7 years at Milk Street Cafe downtown Boston doing corporate catering, so I know more about that than most people do, and I understand that that's what's called for there, so.
You know, as restaurants come in before us for these types of permits and licenses, we have a tendency to say, use our local farmers. We got some great farm stands right down on 119. The town owns an orchard, by all means.
All for it.
Go out and go local. We
All for
appreciate
it.
that.
I do that with, as a personal chef, I go, not just to Littleton, but Boxborough and Stowe and Sudbury and all the surrounding areas wherever I can to get fresh produce that's locally grown, especially during season. My customers like it, I like it, it's local. So yeah, we try to do that.
It's good. We have FIBA Technologies, another company in town. Make sure you hook up with them if they need some corporate.
A lot of bagels.
Some corporate food. They're a great company in town too. I'm sorry.
That was good, huh?
Well played. Yeah, I echo what the other board members say. Also, we've talked a couple times tonight about the MBTA station being right around the corner. I mean, you might find there's no coffee shop.
Right, and that's a
offer,
thought, putting up maybe an advertisement saying where we are and to come and get us, what hours we're there. We're working on things like that too. Somebody had said something about putting a concession there. There isn't enough traffic. I mean, it all happens at one time, coming and going, so there isn't really enough traffic to sustain somebody there. But, yeah, I mean, putting up advertisement, letting people know we're right around the corner, yes. That's what we're looking for.
Well, I don't have any additional advice to offer you, but wish you luck.
Thank you.
And likewise, congratulations on all your efforts. And
Thank you.
welcome you to town.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 6, to approve the application of Jonathan Finer, owner-manager, DBA Intimate Moment Chef Services, for a common victual license for premises at 305 Foster Street, Littleton, with hours of operation Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Look forward to stopping in.
Yeah, definitely. Breakfast is lacking around here, so it's great.
We could have like an intimate dinner here.
Yeah.
We can do that. Thank you. Good night.
I see them enough. Love you, mean it.
So 9 minutes for the hearing, you could do the minutes?
Minutes?
No?
They were in the electronic packet. I was only bringing them off myself on the printing room after I printed this. They are in your electronic.
Let me get my little iPad here. Hold on. Yeah, it's still not working.
I'm gonna sing a song.
As chair, you're supposed to
Great.
entertain us.
Oh, all right, let's see.
Get a song and dance.
The other one of them.
Selectmen and somebody walk into a bar.
Can we get the convention on? Watch a couple minutes of the convention?
I don't know, I'll have to see, yeah. My guy, Al Gore.
Please.
He was waiting for him.
So we're skipping
think she
minutes
even asked
then? You don't-
No, I'm sure there's a lot of history there.
everyone
We're skipping
read-
minutes in order to kill minutes.
Okay, all right. We'll do that, approve next time.
We got 1 minute.
All right.
Yeah, we're close. Ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 148, subsection 13, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, July 25th, 2016, at 8:15 PM at the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, to consider the license application submitted by 5K LLC for the use of land at 53 Air Road, Littleton, Mass. 01460, and identified on Assessors Map R 21-9-0. for the above-ground storage of flammable and consumable liquids, gases, and solids as follows. Paint, Class 2 and 3, 5,000 gallons in 1-gallon cans. Diesel, Class 3, 1,000 gallons in above-ground storage tanks, 5-gallon containers. Hydrogen, Class 1, 15,000 gallons in cryonic tank. Gaseous hydrogen, Class 1, 10,000 cubic feet in pressure vessel. Gasoline, Class 2, 500 gallons in portable containers. LP gas, 5,000 gallons in steel tanks with 2 at 2,000 each, and 22, 33, and 100-gallon portable cylinders totaling 1,000 gallons. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen, Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, by noon, Friday, July 22nd, 2016, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Melissa Hebert, Chair.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. All right.
Come on up.
Yeah. So, how should we get started? Tom, Keith?
Well, we'll start with, the
Introductions.
applicant's attorney wants to walk us through where we are, and I know there's a presentation that will be made by Air Liquide, which we've got loaded.
Good evening. My name is Andrea McCarthy. I'm from the law offices of Jerry Epper, and we represent 5K as well as Viva Technologies. I don't know if everyone received a copy of my letter that I sent over this afternoon. If you don't, I do have extra copies.
Yeah, I think we got it in our email.
We got it by email.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Just to
But
give
we
a
could, if
little,
you have copies, they don't
Yeah.
hurt to have them.
We've received several letters on the subject of what the rights of the private property owners are on Distribution Center Drive and Circle, and Town Council is here to advise the board on those.
which we would suggest that it's not an issue that's before the board tonight. We're here specifically for the Chapter 148, Section 13 license and its application. But just to give you a brief background, 5K purchased the property in 2012, and since that date, the time of the purchase, it was an abandoned eyesore. Viva Technologies and 5K have come a long way since they purchased it. It's turned into quite a beautiful location, commercial location. Since 2012, just to give you a synopsis as to what the permits and approvals that they've obtained from the town of Littleton. Originally, it was the site plan modification application and the modified site plan, which was approved by the planning board on August 9, 2012. Then they had the special permit and water resource district special permit, which were approved on the same date. Another site plan modification was approved by the planning board on March 14, 2013. We obtained a sign variance for the increased size of the sign before the planning board on May 1st, 2014. Then Air Liquide, who is the newest tenant, who's part of the application with their hydrogen facility, they obtained the Water Resource District Special Permit and Major Commercial and Industrial Use Special Permit back in February of 2016. And just most recently, Genova has received was granted the Aquaporn Water Resource Special Permit and modified the Master Plan Development Special Permit, which was granted by the board on June 2nd, 2016. So in addition to that, we've also obtained multiple building permits as well as any other approval that's been necessary with respect to the facility and the commercial use at 53 Air Road. I'll let Roy from Air Liquide speak with respect to the application.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. If you could start with the first slide.
I'm gonna give you this.
Okay.
And to advance it, you just press down.
Press
okay?
down.
And pressing up, and don't press this one because it won't do anything. So
Don't shoot us.
this
Which
is
one's
forward.
next?
This is, next is the down button. right
Down
there.
button, okay.
Thanks.
You can read this slide in the background. It's Air Liquide's policy that we start every conference call, every meeting with a safety moment. Just so everyone knows, we start these all the time. A safety moment has actually saved the life of someone in my life, so it's near and dear to me. So I try and bring up a good safety moment that everyone can bring home with them. So about a couple of months ago, I was away on a fishing trip, and I got a very frantic call from my son. He's just started mowing the lawn. He's 14 years old, and he overfilled the gas tank in the lawnmower, and the lawnmower was a ball of fire, and he was home by himself. He was smart enough to get the lawnmower away from the house so the house didn't burn down. He tried to put it out with water and everything, and he finally was able to get help. The local police came, and they used a fire extinguisher to put the fire out. My son's name is Matt, and he was able to get the lawnmower away from the building so it didn't burn down, but smart enough to take it all the way to the end of the driveway. It actually melted to the driveway. The plastic wheels on the lawnmowers are still embedded in my driveway. So I now have a fire extinguisher, and my son learned a very valuable lesson. Never start any power equipment in the garage, and always keep a fire extinguisher in the garage. Any combustion engine, take outside and start. Okay? So let's talk about hydrogen. Air Liquide is a very large industrial gas company. We're global. We are in actually 81 countries. My presentation says 80. 15 billion euros in 2014, prior to a recent acquisition that we made. Air Liquide purchased Airgas, which is another industrial gas company. So some of the marking here, everyone has a copy of the slide, you can read it. I won't spend too much time on it. We're in several facets of the industrial gas business. We're also in medical, engineering and construction, pipelines throughout Houston, merchant healthcare, and electronics, again, globally. This picture is a very important picture. The picture of this truck is actually a liquid hydrogen truck. This is what a truck would look like that's pulling into the Littleton facility. This size truck would be pulling in and filling the 15,000-gallon liquid tank, which is in Littleton. The driver will take about 45 minutes to offload the liquid product into the tank on site. The importance of this slide, I wanted to relate to the board some of the other installations that Air Liquide has business close by. If you look at the bottom here, close liquid hydrogen installations. The point I'm trying to make in this slide is Littleton is not a special design. We'll call it a cookie cutter. It's like other designs, other locations in the country. Most notably, Newark Farmers Market in New Jersey, and there's another one in North Carolina, Procter & Gamble, have similarly sized tanks, similarly sized everything that's at the facility. So we have 2 other plants just like this one in Littleton. So it's not a special design, it's pretty much a cookie cutter design. The installations that I mentioned in this slide, earlier, the left corner down below, are liquid installations that are not high pressure except for Newark Farmers Market. So Air Liquide particularly delivers to all these tanks locally, okay? Not including the competitors' tanks. So there's liquid hydrogen all around the area. Again, Air Liquide takes safety very seriously, and not just in hydrogen. We follow all the industry guidelines, IFC, IBC, NFPA 2. We conform to all the national electric codes, ASME, DOT. All systems are designed with multiple safety mechanisms, which I'll get into in a later slide. We take safety very seriously and compliance very seriously. We care about personnel and the environment around us.
How do you prevent cell phones in this day and age?
It's a rule of ours not to have cell phones within the facility. All of our employees know that. We want to keep all the electronic devices, or at least to be utilized in a safe area. We have signs throughout the entire facility reminding all of the employees and anyone coming in from the outside, including hard hats and safety equipment, no cell phones, etc.
So visitors would power down their cell phones?
Yes, we request that. We will put signs in that say accordingly.
Will you have a safety officer on site?
We'll have 10 employees on site. We have a designated safety person. I think all of our personnel are going to be trained in safety, but not a designated safety person. Is that correct, Abay?
Yeah, that's correct. There'll be a facility manager, and part of his responsibility will to adhere to all the safety policies per Air Liquide and ensure all the employees and visitors are following those guidelines as well.
But everyone will be trained on safety, every employee. A big part of our training is first response. Mr. Clancy from the local fire department was involved with the DOE and went to France and received some hands-on training, so he could speak to that. But we take things very seriously, and Air Liquide wants to train all personnel, including the police and fire, on all the safety that will be involved at the facility, all the safety mechanisms, and be fully trained and versed on everything that should make the facility safe, as well as refresher yearly safety training. There's also a website here where I'm mentioning in the slide. It's a great site for learning about hydrogen safety. So what started all this, or partially, was Air Liquide and Toyota went into joined a venture in 2014 to bring the fuel cell vehicle to the Northeast, in addition to California. We're building 12 stations in the Northeast from Boston down to North New Jersey. Littleton will serve as a hub, what we call a hub, and that hub will be supplying anywhere from 6 to 12 of those auto fuel cell vehicle stations down to New York City. And that's what this plant will be supplying, high pressure to all the stations supplying the vehicles.
So you wouldn't see that in Littleton, the cars plant. We supply the material for those places to be able to give to the cars.
That's correct. That is actually a picture of an international station.
Cool.
So the Littleton hub will be supplying all those stations. It will look similar, but smaller, like that.
Okay.
So we're pretty proud of that.
Cool.
So again, this hub, the intention of this hub is to be supplying all the 6 to 12 of the stations. We're also going to be building another hub, maybe in North New Jersey, to supply the other 6. We'll work those details out later, but for now, the Littleton hub is really our only hub at the present time. And we'll have another hub as the ramp-up rate, as the auto market sells more vehicles, we'll add another hub. So the hydrogen comes in as a liquid from either Canada or Kentucky, and it's put into the tank as a liquid form. And what the Littleton facility will be doing is using a very high-pressure liquid pump to turn the liquid into a high-pressure gas to fill tube trailers. These tube trailers would go to the 12 stations to fill, those stations to fill the vehicles. So it's coming in as a liquid and coming out in tube trailers as a gas. The hubs will have an initial capacity of about 1,080 kilograms per day and monitored 24 hours a day. Again, the site's going to comply with all the NFPA, CGA, OSHA, NEC, and ASME codes, as well as DOT. We have control systems that will have both active and passive safety systems to reduce the risk of fire and will be monitored 24/7. So just a simple rendition of what I just mentioned. The liquid hydrogen truck comes in, fills a 15,000-gallon tank, goes through a very high pressure pump, goes through what we call a vaporizer, which changes the liquid hydrogen to a gas. Then it goes into the dispensers and then into tube trailers. It's a simple way, but it's actually fairly complicated, a lot of engineering involved. So about our hub site. 10 people, including drivers. The site will be staffed 10 to 12 hours per day. For truck trailer deliveries, 5 tube trailers per day, about 3 hours each. We're looking at 2 liquid deliveries per week from one of the 2 plants I mentioned earlier. All of our fill and offloads are per Air Liquide procedure. Both the liquid filling of the tank and the gaseous filling of the tube trailers are under Air Liquide policy. All employees at the facility will be trained for safety and operation of the plant. Obviously, Air Liquide and an additional monitoring service are both going to be remotely monitoring the facility 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a gated, locked area and not accessible to the public.
May I ask a question? The monitoring systems be tied into a PD anywhere?
We're tied into the fire station, right, Chief?
Yes.
To the fire station somewhere that's
As
gonna
well.
be, I know that you got the PD that's there 24/7. Are you guys gonna be able to?
It's monitored by dispatch, fire police
Gotcha.
dispatch.
Perfect, that's what I'm looking for.
It'll come through the fire, radio fire alarm system.
Yep.
For leaking and flame detection.
Okay.
In addition to that, we have hydrogen detectors, sniffers, if you will, to smell hydrogen molecules. If that were to happen, emergency procedures would be followed. We have an emergency stop. It's a big red button. That is pretty much the safety device for anyone that would come in, fire, police, any employees, anyone feels that there's any type of threat whatsoever, we call it an E-stop, it's an emergency stop. And that would be enacted if there were ever an issue.
What does it do?
It shuts down all the systems that would operate any of the hydrogen. It's a big red button, and when we do our training prior to commissioning, we're going to train everyone to what would render hitting that switch. Or even if it's an uncomfort level, you can still hit that switch. We call it the E-stop. It'll disrupt all the operations of the facility.
It's like on an escalator. They got that,
Right.
the kill switch on the.
Right. So a little bit about the engineering and the design of the plant. We perform design reviews at many different layers of design throughout the facility, but this facility is a cookie cutter, and I use cookie cutter because it's a copy of other plants, but we still do has-up analysis. Has-up analysis is pretty much you get a bunch of engineers in a room and you talk about every pipe, every valve, every fitting, every piece of instrument, and we talk about how it can fail. And if there's any way that it can fail, we change the design to make sure it won't fail. So every pipe, every fitting, every valve, every facet of every part of this plant is done through HAZOP review, through tenured engineers that have been doing design of engineering for at least 10 years. So we go over and above on the safety of our facility, and obviously the safe operating and the efficiency of the facility. We also conducted a noise study. The facility will adhere to all the Littleton noise bylaws. We have those studies for your review as well.
Is there noise with the discharge and hissing?
It's all
or-
under the threshold.
But there is.
There is going to be.
I mean, obviously,
yes.
there's gonna be vehicle noise, but
Right.
as far as the transferring of the
We
liquid to the
looked at,
gas.
pump noise, filling noise, venting noise, everything would fall under the threshold. But we hired an independent service to do the noise study for us. We can talk further about that if you like.
No, I get that it's under the threshold, but I'm just kinda curious, is there a psst?
What to
or-
expect?
You know, there is noise involved with the
Yes.
transfer. But it's-
There's going to be
it's-
noise involved. When our drivers pull in, they're going to make some noise. When their pumps are running.
Understood, yeah. Those are all mechanical systems.
Correct.
So I get
All
that.
mechanical system noise.
Okay.
You're not getting the psst.
I'm not gonna, okay. Unless the air brakes are letting go.
Right. So here's our site in Littleton at the FABA facility, obviously. Site layout overview within FABA.
Where exactly is your facility on there? What's the nearest, how close are you to the nearest
Yeah,
building?
the red's not gonna show on the
Yeah.
video screen.
This is pretty much the furthest corner of the property relative to the residential side of the property.
Here's the tank right here, if you'll allow me. Right here.
Okay.
Okay, here's the tank, and here's the filling stations right in here.
Yeah.
Tank is right here.
And where is the wall of the nearest building?
Right here.
Okay, so how many feet would you say that is?
Well, per NFPA guidelines, it has to be at least 50 feet, so it's greater than that distance.
Greater than 50 feet, okay.
Maybe if you show them the previous slide.
Previous one.
Yeah, that might be it. The Gemini dogs, is that part of your sniffing operation?
It's kind of out of whack too, isn't it?
There it is.
So it's way up there,
You
right?
guys are right there, right? And Gemini's way over here.
Yes.
Yes.
Google.
So they'll be in the far corner, and they'll have.
Way up, all the way in the back? Yeah, right
the
here. No, I thought that's what FEMA is.
Yeah, that's FIBA,
Other side.
the other end.
I'm sorry, guys, right back here.
Okay.
Are you taking over that whole section?
This,
We've demoed that far structure, but that's been demoed, or half of that's been demolished.
is that real tall one?
That's gone already.
The tower is in almost the center of the building. See
Right there.
So that's actually a buffer between them and New Estate Road.
And that's not part of your facility?
Well, it's, I guess, connected.
It's connected.
It's not, we have no use for it right now. So.
Fire training.
Displace the pigeons? What are you, crazy?
Any other questions on this site layout?
These are the plans that were approved by the planning board? Site plans?
Yes.
How big is your actual site that you'll be occupying, Dan McKee?
How many acres is it?
It's about 50,000 square foot.
50,000
Just
square
over an
feet.
acre.
It's a little over an acre, then, right?
Oh, that's the language. Some of the site elevations here.
Given the location, it probably wouldn't be visible from any of the roads, Air Road or New Estate Road or whatever, right?
Before and after rendering.
So these filling stations, is that the trucks going out?
The filling stations are the tube trailers coming in to fill.
Okay.
The stations, then going out at
Okay.
an appropriate time after they're filled.
So essentially, you have the tanker that comes in.
The liquid trailer
liquid's
comes in to fill that, correct.
Fill this. And then the tube trailers would, are these the filling stations for the tube trailers?
Yes.
So this would compress or do the
The
magic?
liquid pump would bring the liquid up to a very high pressure through a vaporizer.
It would go psst.
Actually, really into that, it's just a pump. Just standard,
All right, I can
sound like a regular pump. We
Pump
we
use.
don't like, psst. That means
It's
something's
this bad.
leaking. That's not good.
That goes back to the, hey, has
Right.
up. This is the portion of the building you were talking about that was demo, right?
Yes, that's gone.
Were hours of operation, was that part of the planning board permit?
Yes.
It was, okay, so is there a regular time when the trucks come and or when they don't come?
The tube trailers would be coming during the day mostly. Liquid trailers twice a week. They could be coming 24/7, our liquid trailers. But for now, the ramp-up rates are very minimal, so
If there's hours of operation and the truck came in the middle of the night, there's not gonna be anybody there to open the door for them, right? Or-
no, our drivers are trained to get in. And our liquid trailers have teams of drivers as well. There's always two.
Well, then what are the hours, Mara? Do you remember offhand, or planning board? I mean, if there were hours
on the site plan.
dedicated to this, then what does that mean if the trucks can come at any time?
So the trucks are able to come to the site, drop off, initiate a fill, so they can be filling at any time during the day or at night. So that's what that means, but there'll be someone on site for a 10 to 12 hour shift during the regular day.
But the whole purpose of the hours, I think, is to restrict when the truck traffic comes on site. That's usually the driving factor for hours, so that we aren't having a lot of trucks in the middle of the night.
The liquid deliveries can sometimes deliver 24/7 late at night. Our drivers are trained to get in, it won't interrupt any operation, but those trailers are coming long distances.
In my memory, I did not do the application for site plan modification for Air Liquide, but I don't recall if there were any prohibited hours of operation in the permit that I read.
Well, that may not have been and the planning board administrator is here, that may or may not have been definitively a term of that license, but it could be a condition of this license.
Where the traffic load is 2 trucks a week, didn't seem something that was comfortable.
Well, I know, but if you lived in one of the houses up there and, you got to look forward to that twice a week, then maybe you'd prefer it were happening at 9 at night, not at 2 in the morning.
I'm glad you brought it up, Parker. That was my concern for the neighbors up there, not knowing if something's coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, no matter how careful they are. Will the noise be something that's gonna disturb the neighborhood?
And if the deliveries come when there's nobody on site, you say the drivers are trained, that's fine. Well, what if something should happen to incapacitate the driver?
There's another driver.
Okay, so, but during the day, operational hours, there are people on site.
Yes, sir.
24
Every
hour.
liquid delivery is made with 2 drivers. There's always one driving and one to assist. They switch places because the trucks are on the road 24/7. They're always rolling.
And the whole thing's surveyed, it's under video surveillance 24/7.
Yes.
Not just by us, but by Air Liquide.
Correct.
So that might be a big red button right there. Somebody that's monitoring the place, push the big red button from Overland Park, Kansas, or wherever they are, Houston.
You started to comment on the trucks not disturbing the neighbors late at night. I think you're starting to say, no, they won't.
Well, our drivers are trained, our drivers are trained not to disturb at 2 o'clock in the morning. They respect the neighbor's privacy and that they're sleeping. But it is common practice for liquid hydrogen trucks to be delivered 24/7. Again, our trucks aren't moving, they're never stopped except for they're filling, always on the road because they're going from coast to coast, north to south constantly. It would really, really tax the system if we only had liquid deliveries during normal business hours. Be very prohibitive for Air Liquide to do business if we are restricted.
Is this an annual license, Keith?
No,
Renewable?
it's one time.
One-time license. I was gonna say, if this were annual, we could try it out and see if they were.
Can we bring them back to amend it at any time? Or, I mean, what says we can't, if we find that there are some issues with it, there's no reason why we can't bring them back to amend it. But before I get into that, the 2 chiefs are here. Police Chief King, what Potpourri, are they having trucks in there 24/7? What is it? Do we know if that, I mean, I know that's a fulfillment center that.
Both the warehouses down there have trucks that deliver at all times of the night. Verizon, who's just closed down there, had deliveries on a 24/7 basis. Matter of fact, they switched from the audible backup alarms to the strobes because it was echoing up onto the Whitetail Way area up there. So, you know, there were steps taken to mitigate some of the noise and things like that. put a parade right now, it hasn't fully geared up. They're still putting up their, so I don't know exactly what their delivery schedule is. The way I was understood, or at least it was explained to me originally, was that during the season, typically, you know, from January till, October-ish, it's, they have deliveries, but come the Christmas season, the Christmas delivery season, the trucks, ramp in and up, outgoing and down there. So again, that may be something we're gonna have to adjust with them later on, but there is traffic in and out of there on a 24/7 basis.
Our operation is also 3 shifts, fully staffed, so, and we directly abut New Estate Road.
That's fiber?
That's us,
Yeah.
We've had noise issues and we've worked with the neighbors, and the last I've heard, they're pleased with our operations, so.
Good to know.
Keith, can you pull up the Google Maps? I mean, this is kind of a static one, we can't zoom in or out. Is that possible to pull up the Google Maps so that just the locus?
Yeah. And that being said,
Just
here
to
in the
see what the
comment from
impact
the police chief, make sure that you have your strobes instead of your backup
Yeah.
alarms at some of your trucks. Or do you have backup alarms? Do you know?
Of course.
Is there a way to switch them from audible to strobe?
We prefer not to back up at all, to be honest with you. We prefer to come in and do a loop and not back up at all.
Okay.
That's okay too.
Yeah, we
Just be really quiet when you close the doors.
The site plan I saw, Mr. Carr, had the trucks coming in, circling through. They don't have to back into anything or anything like that, so that should take care of any kind of alarm issues down there.
That was actually one of the conditions in reviewing that whole site and distribution circle. The plan was to minimize any of the hazards with the deliveries coming in and the trucks going out. So the route was done so that they would come in and go all the way around the circle and then pull in to the plant so that they could pull right out and back onto the drive.
Gotcha.
To minimize any traffic hazards and avoid backing up at all costs. Same with the delivery of the gas, once it's transferred to the tube trailers and going out again. We had several discussions on their travel path, and it's all to avoid any traffic hazard and backup alarms. But then the tube trailer is very much like a regular gas station. They deliver fuel all hours of the night, mornings, everything like that. So it's very similar with the land license to the Shell station, the mobile station in town, and it's just in the form of hydrant.
Okay. Google doesn't know where 53 Air Road is.
It doesn't know what Gemini Dogs is either.
Talk with Condyne about that.
But this just gives a kind of a better sense, I think, for all of us to see where the closest residents are. You know, and so if Verizon was up here backing in and they were affecting Whitetail, which is a little further up, yeah, so, yeah, they're backing into trailers here, it's echoing off the building through the valley. So I think, yeah, the highest impact would likely be New Estate, right, because we're talking back here.
Just that corner.
Right, so. But it's mostly Crowry's down there anyway, right?
Oh, boy.
No comment.
Just kidding.
Okay. All right. Back to,
Thank you.
They have a little bit of lawn there, do you? Your son's not gonna be mowing it, is he, by any chance?
They're actually putting in a field for us.
And you know what he did a week later too?
Do we want to know?
Another
Because
funny
the apple
story.
doesn't fall far from
I
the
have
tree.
a brand new back blower that requires 2-cycle mix.
oh, boy.
How do you think the story's gonna end here?
Try fire
Put
again.
straight gas in, and it comes in, Dad, it's not working, what happened? I went out and I saw the clear liquid in the gas tank. But now he's a professional landscaper, or likes to be referred to as a professional landscaper, now that he burned through all Dad's equipment.
Keith, can we go back to that training slide?
Apple in the tree, right?
And learn from it. So here's a picture of a facility in North Carolina. This is actually a fork truck facility that utilizes fuel cells instead of electric motors or propane. So this is a liquid hydrogen system that's very similar to what's going to be in Littleton. You have your large liquid hydrogen tank, you have the large vaporizer in the back, you have some tube trailers, and it's similar, it's the same design, but our facility is a little bit bigger. So this would be a close rendition to what it looks like.
You're just not dropping trailers, you're coming in, filling the trailers and pulling out.
Some of them may be filled, or we may have tube trailers parked, because remember, we're ramping up
Yeah.
for, it depends on how many fuel cell vehicles are gonna be on the road.
How many stations servicing?
Things are gonna be really quiet for a while, but there will be a ramp up.
Can you speak to that as far as your partnership with Toyota and what you're ramping up, quote-unquote, ramping up is, and any type of timeline for that?
Charlie, would you mind? I'm thinking 4 to 5 cars a day per station to start. Each
For
station.
the first several years, you're probably looking, I'm with the Massachusetts Hydrogen Coalition, and I'm the chair of the Massachusetts Fuel Cell Electric Vehicle Working Group, just to identify myself to the public. And the ramp rate that the state is expecting is probably in the first year, a couple of hundred vehicles. And then from there, maybe 1,000 if we're lucky, in another 2.5 to 3 years on that. So it's not a significant where you've got hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road right now. Over the next 5 years, we should be about 3,000, maybe 4,000 total by the end of 5 years for the whole state.
Could you say your name one more time?
Charlie Myers?
Myers. Thank you.
And is this an initiative that your group is with the state government, or?
It's a good question. Massachusetts actually signed a memorandum of understanding with 7 other states to deploy collectively, one of those states is California, the other one's New York, 3.3 million vehicles by 2025, so 10 years out from now, as part of an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and zero emission. And by 2050, Massachusetts and those 7 states and 5 countries have committed to stop selling internal combustion engine, gasoline, and diesel vehicles. So in 35 years, you won't be able to buy a brand-new gasoline car.
The fuel cell vehicles emit water. There's no exhaust. I don't know if you knew that.
Just don't know if we can tie that into Foster Street. But, no, it's an initiative that's not only local, but we're going nationwide here, that's.
Yes, eventually.
Help in the future.
Yep.
Just a quick question while you have that slide up there. Are there any installations that you'll be servicing similar to this fork truck location, or any fleets like the MBTA or NSTAR, or any of the utility companies or anything like that, where they have fleets that operate on
Not as of yet.
hydrogen vehicles? Okay.
That's the goal, eventually, yes.
They're committed to adding fuel cell electric vehicles as the vehicle profiles come available to meet their needs.
Madam Chair, can I ask?
Yeah, we would love to supply fleets.
My question is the chief and the deputy chief. Safety issues are going to be, questions are going to be asked tomorrow about the safety. Is this should be more of a concern than the regular gas stations? Is it the same?
No, because it's not a retail location. You have a greater danger of a mishap at the Shell station, somebody inadvertent not paying attention to pumping gas in the car. This is a distribution site. So the safety systems that Marty started, the button that stops everything, that's all part, that's the standard in Europe. It's a very, if you look at Air Liquide's record, safety-wise, it kind of speaks for itself. I don't think, there's danger with anything, but from a standpoint of like, ooh, this is a bad idea, it's not. The newness of it is because of the cars. It's a partnership with Toyota. As he's alluded to, there's distribution places like this. You'll see more of this action in fork trucks, like he spoke to, because it's a more efficient fuel, because they just fill and drive off in large facilities. The cars, when a gentleman from the planning board last week was in California recently, rented a Mirai and drove it. So California has how many stations down there? They have 20 plus, there's more activity in Southern California for hydrogen fuel now. And there's no instances of the cars blowing up. You know, your compressed natural gases and things like that have more risk right now than hydrogen fuel cars because they're so new, they're not out there. This is an electric car. It's like a Volt, it's like your Tesla. But you don't plug it in, you fill it with hydrogen and it creates electricity that supplies the battery that drives the car. The byproduct is water. So we're talking about an electric vehicle, but as far as this facility goes, you know, the safety things are in there. And their transport record is also that. One of our concerns was, okay, after it leaves the facility, what about going from here to 495 and we've discussed that about, and that'll be part of our training to see the trailers and how we mitigate a response to a tipped over trailer on an off ramp, let's say. Because at the facility, there's going to be built-in safety features, but what about when the trucks leave? How are we going to handle that? And that's been discussed about the training before the facility opens so that we're prepared to handle that emergency in town.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest concerns is the vehicles. And not necessarily the truck itself, it's the interaction of the people that, you know, as we see with all the crashes on the highways and the roads in town, people that aren't paying attention. But simply how we can mitigate that stuff with the trucks. It's going to be, we've had some discussions with Air Liquide already about having the trucks and trailers come out, having our mutual aid partners, the surrounding towns come in for this training.
Fantastic.
And come in and look at these trucks, be familiar with them, be familiar with the shutoffs, the different hazards that come along with these trucks and how to mitigate the situations. So it'll be an ongoing training and something that we do on a yearly basis with everybody, all of our department, including the surrounding towns.
Maybe we video that with LCTV and that, seriously, so you have a training tool, so when new people come on, you've got something that they can use, you can also, you can share that with mutual aid as well.
And folks in town can see it too.
And on top of that, speaking with Charlie earlier, in November, the Mass Fire Academy will be starting their classes for the hydrogen as well, for the hydrogen. And that'll be statewide for all of the departments to start doing the formal training there, including props.
Is that the same training you went to, Tom?
Part of my penance for going to France. Yeah, so.
Just one last comment to that. You know, the main difference between hydrogen and gasoline pours on the ground. You can literally take the nozzle and pour it on the ground. With hydrogen, it has to be hooked up to a vehicle and gone through many safety checks before it can be dispensed. And all hydrogen wants to do is go up in the air. If it were to be released, it wants to go up immediately. Everything at our facility and all the stations is piped up to what we call a vent stack. Everything goes through a vent stack that purges the hydrogen upward in a safe area. There can't be anything around it when and if it would ever purge. So hydrogen wants to go up. Gasoline pours on the ground. I alluded to earlier some of the two locations where liquid hydrogen could be coming from, Becancourt, Canada, and Calvert City, Kentucky. Some of the highways.
We're sending the deputy police chief to Kentucky. We sent the deputy fire chief to France, though.
Yeah. Look how that turned out.
Yeah.
Very good.
There's way too many comments, I think it's.
So we talked a little bit about this earlier, the traffic pattern within the industrial park. The liquid trailer traffic pattern, we talked about that earlier, but here's a rendition. Same thing with the tube trailers. And that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Oh, Jerry Hope, you're in New State Road, I'm at the office.
Jerry, hold on, Jerry.
Thank you, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Let's let the board ask a few questions first and then we'll get right to it. And see if the chiefs want to comment on anything else as well. Board members, other questions, thoughts?
Yes. How long will the 15,000 last? What are you thinking, the turnaround time? I know it's twice a week, but 3 days, 4 days? Are you gonna go completely empty in 15,000 or?
Well, to give you a scenario, for our stations, they can handle max 40 cars per day. And we don't foresee that for 6, 7, 8 years out. So if you were to look at the absolute worst case, we'd be supplying 6 stations, give or take, at 40 cars a day, absolute max. Two deliveries a week, max for liquid. To start off, maybe 1 or 2 a month, if that.
And again, the systems, all the systems you talk about, all these safety systems will be tied into our public safety department. So, you know, as soon as you know, they know, and that's a concern. That's really
I know we're here on chapter 148, but with the things we got from Condyne and stuff, I mean, if we're gonna be doing a permit, do we have any answers on?
Well, I don't know that we have answers, but I'm happy to tell you what I do know. So here's what, would you mind putting back up the slide?
I can do it.
That showed the kind of site the site.
Traffic flow? The traffic flow, yeah.
And were there any concerns from the neighbors? Did you get anything in writing, Keith?
No.
The one right before this.
This
That
one?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that one. Yeah, the one right before that.
This, no.
There's one, isn't there?
He's fighting.
That's it. Okay, so here's what I know.
Control here, you do. Sorry.
So Condyne sent us a letter saying that there is a easement agreement from 2007 that limits the owner of lots 1A and 1B, and that's who the petitioner is, from using the entirety of the road system. I don't know where it ends and where it begins, but their claim is that this easement agreement prevents Air Liquide from using the whole road. Andrea McCarthy responded in 2 letters, or Andrea and her office responded in 2 letters, and they explained that there was a mortgage on the property. This is where we get into the really fun property law stuff. There was a mortgage on the property prior to the 2007 agreement. The mortgage was foreclosed after the 2007 agreement in 2010. So typically, when you foreclose on a property, it clears the title. It wipes out things like this easement agreement. And that's what they've suggested happen here. That makes perfect sense to us. So we think, based on what we see before us now, that's the best read. So taking a step back, what's your responsibility as to title, right? So the permit's before you, you've got to act on the permit. I think it's always wise for a board to make sure that the applicant has a colorable title to the property that you're going to permit. I think they clear that hurdle and then some. Whether or not Condyne is correct, I don't know. And they've asked for an opportunity to provide more information. So I don't want to preclude them from coming up with an argument that we haven't seen yet, but we haven't seen it yet. So I think you have a couple of options. You can continue this and say, we'll give Condyne an opportunity to get us some more information to consider. Or you can go ahead and act on it. I think it's important to understand that ultimately this board is not the determiner of property rights out at this property. So whether Condyne's right or whether Air Liquide is right, it doesn't matter what you say. You don't have the authority to settle that dispute. Ultimately, if they really want to fight about this, that someone should take it to land court and challenge the other's contentions. So I think that's where you are right now. I think they clearly have colorable title, so you're okay acting on it. Condyne's asked for an opportunity to respond. You know, that's certainly a reasonable request that you could honor.
So the burden of proof is on them. The burden of proof is on Condyne to present
I think so, yeah.
That's,
As long as we've
That's
made
the-
a reasonable effort to determine that the applicant has.
colorable title.
Right.
Right, and I think Andrea's firm has done that, has made that
Painted
representation.
that picture, yeah.
Just
And how long ago was the contact with Condyne? How much time have they had to
on a side
prepare?
note, that's what I can explain. The easement agreement was 2007. 5K purchased the property in 2012. Immediately after purchase, they tried to get us to pay for the road. They've known about this since 2012. They have been trying, and they've tried on many, many occasions, and we've rebuffed it with copies of all of our documents of title. We provided it to them over a year ago. Their attorney met with one of the attorneys in our office with the clients. We gave them all the documentation then, and we said to them, even up 3 months ago with Attorney Charliff, we indicated that if you have anything that proves otherwise, please bring it to us.
But in
And they
those
haven't
4
done
years
that.
since they raised the issue, they haven't filed anything legal?
They filed nothing, and they've been raising the issue since 2012.
Okay.
So the fact that he actually came in and wanted more time, when his attorney is fully aware of this and has already received all of the documents on multiple occasions, was a little shocking.
We haven't received anything from Condyne's attorney, though we've received it from Condyne, from the company. The Condyne request did include, did allude to an appeal, which Condyne might make, so perhaps it'd be worth
Right.
saying what that's all about.
So Condyne has said, they don't want to file an appeal here, they just want to make sure the board understands the property rights. So I think it's, if you look at 148.13, the appeal rights are limited to really safety concerns, and it goes to the fire marshal. So I'm not sure they get this into a safety appeal. Maybe somehow through trucks having to back up or something like that, they can make the case that it's ultimately safety.
Fire marshal being Chief Wazinski, or is it
No,
the state?
no,
fire-
state
fire
fire
marshal? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's possible that they can get that appeal. Again, I think if they really want to argue about it, their best course of action is to go to land court and say they do not have the right to use the property as they are intending to use it, and as they've explained how they use it in the application to you. And then land court can say, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong.
One of the ironies is that if you back up from this hearing, and I'll just go back to some recent staff meetings when we've been discussing what articles we might see at the fall town meeting, the laying out and acceptance of distribution center, drive, and circle as public ways is on our radar screen, is on the planning board's radar screen. And so, you talk about land court and decisions and whatever, there's a certain way to get to ascertain whether there's general access for this road, unlimited access, and if it were to be laid out and accepted as a public way, that would answer that question. What the private property rights are becomes a non-issue because it's a public way. The problem, though, is then that the road has to be brought up to standard, that is, to make it acceptable to be laid out as a public way. And there, again, that then becomes a private matter between whatever parties are going to contribute towards an investment in the road. And it's not us.
If I may, Madam Chair. Either way, we have no jurisdiction on that, the land squab.
Right, we're not the decider.
So we can make a ruling based on the information that's before us.
Sure. And my other question was for both chiefs. Being closely, intimately involved in all of this, have you had any contact with Condyne or any other company that's down there in regards to this?
Condyne has never talked to me at all about limiting anyone from using the roadways down there at all.
Okay. potpourri
And
or
they would
anybody
certainly,
else.
I would certainly ask for council's help if and when they ever try to bring that up at this point.
Okay,
Yeah, same, no, haven't been approached about it at all.
all right.
We've had plenty of discussions between Condyne and the fire department and the water
Sure.
department, for that matter, in recent months, but never about access on the roadway, only about the water main.
There'll be far more truck traffic going in and out of Potpourri than,
Right on.
than there will be from this facility.
Yep. That's all I
Is there
have.
a question, any other
No, I
thoughts?
appreciate your time. Thanks. Spelling it out for us.
Thank you for your time.
Well, I just had a couple of things. One is I would like to get clarity from Tom, I guess, or Keith, if this is a one-time license and we do have issues that arise later, what are our rights to try to go back and change something about either traffic noise or whatever?
So, that's a good question. You do have the right to reopen.
If it's determined that Condyne,
But it's really, it's more of a, it's really more of a safety concern.
Well, that's right, I wasn't even thinking in terms of the content, just think, what if all of a sudden the volume ramps up, or these trucks are a lot noisier than we thought and neighbors don't like it? you know?
Right, and so I guess I think where 148.13 takes you is when a fire or explosion hazard exists or is liable to exist due to the exercise of such license, you then have the authority to reopen the license. I think the planning board probably has more authority to address things like truck traffic.
Under site plan, site control, yeah. Okay, and the other point is I just would be interested in hearing if there's anybody in the audience who has anything to say.
Sure, yeah. Chief?
Just, I guess, on Mr. Glavy's, what he's talking about, the noise, having worked on when we had the trouble at the other facility, the building inspector at that point steps in. We did, testing to make sure what the decibel levels were and everything else, and got them into compliance. I would say similarly, I would think that this would be the same issue if the noise level were too high over what we allow at night. The building inspector would step in for enforcement, as they have with FIBA when there was some issues with a pump, I believe it was, outside, that they screened off and stop the noise from getting up into the neighborhood, so.
Mitigate it.
It's not something we haven't worked on before.
Yep, okay.
I got one question for
Could I
town
correct-
council.
So I'm reading further, and so any license granted hereunder, or any license for the keeping, storage, manufacture, sale of any of the articles named in section 9, may be revoked for cause after notice and a hearing given to such owner or occupant by the local licensing authority.
There you go.
So
There you go.
can
That's all
do-
we need, yeah.
You have another?
And we don't look forward to that possibility.
You read your mind?
My question was gonna be, if we didn't have that ability, can we put a condition on this license?
Oh, it looks like we don't need to.
We're all set.
got a valve.
Okay, before, just one more, Jerry, right before public input. Any other last comments from the chiefs or deputy chief? Any other? No? Okay, all right, public input. Oh,
Yep, procedurally, I think we gotta close the hearing, then we can have
Oh,
a
do we?
public hearing. No? Yes.
No, keep the hearing
Keep
open.
the hearing open to
Proceed
get
to
input,
receive
yeah.
the input.
Close it before we vote, though.
Yes, there you go.
name and address, please.
Jared Opioid, New State Road, the other end, so I'm far enough away. One of the things I didn't hear anything talked about tonight is the fact that liquid hydrogen is what's called a cryogenic liquid, which means it's ultra cold, and if confined, without proper safeties, the pressure can build up to just phenomenal levels. And I assume that the stuff's gonna be in what's called a door, or are you guys gonna have a refrigeration?
All the liquid hydrogen is going to be contained within a 15,000-gallon liquid tank.
Right, but that tank has to be super insulated or something, or
Yes,
it's gonna
sir.
boil off.
And it has ASME safety valves on it. Even if there were a fire beneath that tank, the safety valves and the rupture discs are designed to handle the overpressure inside that tank as dictated by ASME.
Yeah, so it does have so there's no way the thing can catastrophically rupture.
There are safety designs into it through a catastrophic situation, there's a rupture disc.
Which would bend it quickly.
The safety valves are reclosing devices, so if the pressure were just temporary, it would relieve the pressure through the vent stack, then it would close.
If the pressure built too fast, faster than the safety valves could vent, the ruptured disc would give.
Great, so
That
it's,
would prevent any overpressurization.
great, so it's not gonna launch like I've seen some, yeah.
No.
Great, and as far as the super cold and just handling cryogenics in general, you guys are all trained, your equipment's all,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the public, questions, thoughts? Okay, I think we've all exhausted this one probably.
Motion to close?
Second?
Then moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So shall we make a motion?
Sure. I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 148, subsection 13, to approve the license application submitted by 5K LLC for the use of land at 53 Air Road, Littleton, Assessors Map R21-9-0 for above-ground storage of flammable and combustible liquids, gases, and solids as follows. Paint, Class 2 and 3, 5,000 gallons in 1-gallon cans. Diesel, Class 3, 1,000 gallons in above-ground storage tank, 5-gallon containers. Hydrogen, Class 1, 15,000 gallons in a cryogenic tank. Gaseous hydrogen, Class 1, 10,000 cubic feet in pressure vessel. Gasoline, Class 2, 500 gallons in portable containers. LP gas, 5,000 gallons in steel tanks with 2 at 2,000 gallons each, and 22, 33, and 100 gallons portable cylinders totaling 1,000 gallons.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
One other thing too, I know John had reached out about tours for the board. If any board members, I've been down to FIBA, they've done a fantastic job down there. I've toured the plant, and I'd suggest go down and check it out. I'll be down to check out this facility, so thanks for the invitation.
You can contact me.
John Finn.
Yeah, just call the office and say, give me Mr. Finn.
I'll be very nice.
Thank you very much.
The building looks great.
It does. Nice job, thank you.
All right, I think so.
Motion to adjourn, Matt?
Second?
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much, folks, thanks for watching.